And a pleasant good afternoon to everyone out there in Irish Breakdown land. I am Vince. That over there is Trevor. That over there is Brian.
Did it. Yeah, I always get that wrong. Well done. Well played, my man. Well
I'm getting
played.
better at it. I'm getting better at it. Being in the middle is just, it's different. It's different.
Yeah.
Here we go.
You are the center of attention today, Vince.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. But anyway, it is Friday, and that means it is a Friday Free-For-All Mailbag, folks. Best day of the week. That doesn't change. And we're fired up. It's the last Friday of July. I just want to throw that out there. I just realized that, and that makes me somewhat sad. But that also means football season is literally knocking on the door, ladies and gentlemen. And so this is our last Friday Free-For-All Mailbag before camp starts. So get your camp questions in. Get any kind of questions that you have. They could be football related. They could be anything, really. And we will answer them.
Anything related to Notre Dame recruiting, or college football preferred.
Yes. Every once in a while, though.
With this chat, you got to be careful not to say anything, because you never know where my guy Tommy Guns may want to take this thing. I'm just saying.
You're not wrong about any of what you just said. But we do like some of the oddball questions too. Just kind of, changes things up. I'm going to put it out there.
Stuff. You speak for yourself.
I do. I like them. I like the different stuff. Okay. But like I said, last mailbag before camp opens. So hit us, everybody, with your questions. We got some fired up in the queue, ready to go.
Well, one cue is Vince is from Tommy Guns. He says, Vince, what's the countdown before you go back to school?
Oh man,
that's coming up real quick soon.
It is, because so I officially go back on the 13th, but as I had to mention to Brian the other day, they're like, oh no, you get to come in a few days early for training and all of those different things as well. So it's really like the first week of August. I mean, that's the reality of it. But so I got one more week, and it's gonna be a good one. I can feel it, because there's camp, and we get to be there and watch it.
Couple,
something like that. From A Reagan, is CJ Carr going to be Notre Dame's version of a Clemson Taj Boyd or Deshaun Watson for the future of winning championships?
Well, definitely not Taj Boyd. Riley Leonard, to me, would be Taj Boyd. He would be the guy that laid the foundation for the success that was going to come with Deshaun Watson and with Trevor Lawrence. And so in this scenario, if Notre Dame becomes the next Clemson, it's going to be like CJ Carr, and then either Blake Hebert, Noah Grubbs, or Teddy Gerard is Trevor Lawrence, and then CJ would be Deshaun Watson. So could CJ Carr be the Deshaun Watson for Notre Dame? That he could do. That guy that leads them to a championship. If he's Taj Boyd, that means he's a 3-year starter, does a lot of good things, but doesn't win a title. And so I guess he could kind of be that. But if I'm right, and that Notre Dame does win a title in the next 2 to 3 years, then he would be Deshaun Watson in this scenario, and Riley Leonard would be Taj Boyd. So that's my hope, is that's kind of how it plays out.
Yeah, I'm with that completely. Taj Boyd was the quarterback that put Clemson back on the map as a program to be looked after, and I think that's what Riley Leonard did. But as far as winning championships, I definitely hope that CJ Carr is more in the Deshaun Watson end of things. I'll say that.
No doubt.
Because he played for 2. Trevor played for 2. They made Trevor played for 2. He was in the title game in 18 and 19. Deshaun was in the title game in 15 and 16, and they had reverse success. Deshaun lost his first one, won his second one. Trevor won his first one, lost his second one. And then of course, Trevor was in the playoff more. He made the Final Four all 3 years he was a starter. Deshaun only made it twice. And part of that's because Deshaun left after 16 and he was injured in 2014. So he played half the year and then got injured and then came back later in the year. And that's part of why Clemson was a 4-loss team that year. But yeah, Taj Boyd laid that foundation. Doesn't get enough credit, in my opinion, for, and I'm not just saying that because he's a 757 guy, he's a Tidewater guy, Virginia guy. I'm not saying just because of that. I'm saying it because that's the truth.
Yeah.
He laid the foundation. He was the guy he's the guy that led them to the Peach Bowl win. I think it was the Chick-fil-A Bowl win at the time over LSU. It was a huge win. He's the guy that led them to their, one of the early big wins over Florida State. He's the guy that led them to the Orange Bowl win over Ohio State, Urban Meyer and Ohio State in 2013. So I felt like he laid that foundation, and then Deshawn took him over the top, and then Trevor kept that part going.
Aiden Benami, we talked about IU canceling Virginia, but they also canceled Louisville last year as well. Ole Sig is for sure canceling the Notre Dame games.
Well, I would argue that if Kurt Cignetti has his way, there's no way he's still going to be the head coach at Indiana when they play Notre Dame.
That's a great point. Yeah.
Like, I just don't.
He's looking to bounce. He's looking to bounce.
I think so.
I think he's the kind of coach that's always going to be looking for the next thing, you know.
Just you look at his, I won't say his track record, because his first head coaching job was at James Madison. And if you get a chance to go from James Madison to a Big Ten school, you're going to take that job. I mean, that
absolutely,
I'm totally fine with that. But and he was at IUP for 6 years, won, and then went somewhere, used that to go somewhere else. used that to get the Elon job. He did that for 2 years, and then used that to get to James Madison. What's to make us think that Indiana's his this is my ultimate. This is my, I don't want to go anywhere else. This is my dream job. I'll never dream of leaving,
right.
this particular job, that kind of thing. There's nothing in his background that says that, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that. I mean, that's, that's what competitors do. Yeah. Okay. I proved myself at this level, but now I want to prove myself at, and that's fine. No problem with that. But I just don't like coaches that schedule their way into success. Even at a place like Indiana, I had no problem with him canceling the Louisville game last year. None. If let's just say hypothetically he's the reason they canceled it, and I don't know that he was, but let's just say he got hired and was like, listen, we got to get out of that game because we got to get some winnable games. We're going to turn this program around. I have no problem with that. That actually is smart because you're taking over a terrible program that was losing a bunch of games. But then once you get good, you should no longer be that way. And that was one of my issues with Art Briles. I'm a big Art Briles fan as a coach, Vince. I mean, he was a heck of a coach. But they got good, and then he kept scheduling weak non-conference games. And it's like, dude, you've built this program up. You should want that smoke now. Like, and it frustrates me when coaches don't want that. But that's the mindset we're seeing from a lot of coaches. It's no different than Lincoln Riley. I'd really like to play Notre Dame, but no, dude, there's no buts. If you want to play Notre Dame, problem solved. Keep playing Notre Dame. But there's conferences. Last I checked, USC wasn't an independent in the 70 plus years that they've been playing each other. Pretty sure that's true. So it's you got a lot of coaches with loser mentalities now. A lot of coaches with while Dabo's signing a 12-year agreement with Notre Dame that starts in a couple years. All these other coaches are running, tucking their tails between their legs and running and hiding from. And then they want to take shots at the SEC. And I'm like, last I checked, the SEC teams are actually scheduling tough non-conference games. A lot of times multiples. So I don't want to hear it. It's just the Big Ten. It's like they have a couple wins and they want to start turning into some righteous, whats. You know what I mean? What starts with the B, So
all he does is win, Brian. Just Google it.
Right. Except against good teams.
Right.
We dominate teams outside the top 21, so yeah, that guy.
Another one.
I'm sorry. It's amazing how my opinion of him has changed so much in the last 6 months to where I was like, I really respected the job that he did in Indiana. I still do. I mean, to the point where I'm like, dude, he's a little arrogant, but you know what? I respect the guy. I like the guy. But from the moment he was on that stage talking about, we dominate ranked teams with his little Yinzer accent and talking about like we're this and we're that, and then some of the stuff he said in the post-game show and the post-game press conference, and then just how he's been running his mouth ever since. It's like, dude, like there's being arrogant, and then there's just kind of being a giant, I don't even know the word to say that's appropriate, but just not a likable person. And now we don't want to play Virginia, it's like, because. And somebody says, well, they canceled that because it's about home games. All right, then cool. Schedule a home game with somebody other than Kennesaw State and
right.
Southern Illinois.
You can do home and aways with people like that.
Or if you could just do 2 homes, say, look, there's going to be Power 5 teams that you could schedule. Or, hey, here's a thought. You don't think James Madison, schedule North Dakota State. Heck, North Dakota State might be a tougher game than South Virginia. They'll come to play you. Schedule James Madison, schedule Memphis. You don't think one of those teams will do a one and done to come play you at your place, a Power 4 team? Of course they will. It's so they can say, it's really about the home games to get the home money revenue. That's bull crap. Because it's not like, well, Virginia or Kennesaw State. It's okay. We don't want to play Virginia home and home, so Virginia won't cancel the second road game. Because, like, let's think about this logically. We want to play home games both years. We want to get the extra home game. We don't have to go play Virginia. All right, cool. I understand that, especially now in this where you've got this money, you've got to raise extra money to play this and do that. I get all that. But it's not so since there's no Virginia, it's all the way down to Kennesaw State and Southern Illinois type teams, Western Illinois, whoever it is. There's plenty of AAC teams that would be willing to do that. There's plenty of Sun Belt teams that'd be willing to do that who are good. If you want to schedule an FCS team, schedule a good one. Schedule South Dakota State. Schedule North Dakota State. But it's not about that. It's about racking up. That's the excuse to use to rack up easy W's. That's what it comes down to, in my opinion.
I think. Can you go back to that other one? I don't think we actually did that one yet. Kane, Ricky, which projected non-starter on defense do you see having the biggest impact this season?
This is my boy, Kane. He was one of the groomsmen in my wedding. He said he was going to submit a question today.
Nice.
So that's a good question, dude. Right now, projected non-starter, there's a handful. I mean, we've had a lot of talks on this show about the defensive line rotation. What do you consider a starter versus starter level snaps? Last year we saw RJ Oben was always the starter that got rolled out, but Bryce Young towards the end of the season ended up playing more snaps than what RJ Oben did, over week. As of right now, I would probably say one of the edge rushers, like let's just say in week 1, they roll out Junior Tuihalamaka and Josh Burnham as their starters. They're the first defensive ends that take reps, but then if Abubakar is healthy and he rotates in and he can have a full workload, or Bryce Young, or one of the safeties like a Bronte Johnson or a Jadon Blair, I would say it's one of them. It's somewhere in that level. But defensively, I mean, it's all over the place because they rotate so much. So what do you guys think?
I like Jalen Sneed for this one because I don't think he's going to end up being a starter, but I think he is going to be in the game in impactful moments and getting after the quarterback and just making some high impact type plays, because that's basically what he's been. That's who he is. And, I know he came in with the 5 stars and the whole deal, but he's found a nice niche, I think, on this defense and the way they utilize his skill set and not really needing him to be a starter, but he comes in and makes an impact. I think he'll continue to do that. And if he can take kind of even the next step in his development, he's going to have even more of an impact on the defense.
I'm going to go on the offensive side of the ball here, be a little bit different. Whoever doesn't start between Jordan Faison and Will Pauling. That's who I'm going with.
I like it.
And if you read my intel piece, I put the tight ends up yesterday. If you read the intel piece on the receivers from 2 days ago, there's a rising sophomore that might be part of that conversation as well. So you're going to want to check that out. But I'm going to go with whoever doesn't start between Jordan Faison and Will Pauling. For similar to what you mentioned, Trev, they're both going to play a bunch. But one of them is going to start, and one of them isn't. And whoever isn't the starter, I could see having a big impact.
Yeah.
I was a little disappointed in the intel. There was nothing on Justin Fisher. But other than that, it was a great piece. It's a great piece. Look on your face. It's just great.
Here's the one that we passed over from
from another one from my den. Would you keep players or commits if they have committed the quote unquote crimes that UGA players and commits have done? Would Notre Dame? I think I know the answer.
I don't think you do, to be honest with you. I'll say this. It's easy to bang on Georgia players for what's going on. And to a degree, there's some things going on there that are just jacked up. And the issue is more so the fact that it's happening to the volume that it's happening there. Notre Dame has had players arrested for DUI in the last 15, 20 years. They've had players do some things that we're not proud of having a member of the Notre Dame football program doing. Those things all happen everywhere. It's the fact that it's happening so much at Georgia that there appears to be no accountability. Anytime that you're referring to, what do you do with a player? It's never as easy as just saying, okay, I'm kicking you off the team. Number one, I don't think kicking a kid off the team is always the best thing for that kid. You don't know the home life you're sending them back into. I'll tell you, there was a Notre Dame player that should have been kicked off the team sooner than he was, but the family begged him, please don't kick him off the team, because we're trying to work with him. We're trying to get him better. But if you send him home, this is who he's going to be hanging out with. And that's the group that got him in there. So they tried to work with him, and eventually it wasn't working. But if we're trying to take shots at Georgia, the answer is nope. Notre Dame would never tolerate that. Well, Notre Dame would never tolerate having more arrests than wins over a 2-year stretch. They would never tolerate that. But every circumstance is different. Nick Saban caught a lot of flack because he'd have a guy get in trouble, and it would always result in suspending him for games. And my answer is, suspending a guy for games is not always the answer. Sometimes it is. Vince, you and I were talking about a situation with a particular school where there were some academic things happening where it's like playing time should have been taken away, because that's the only way you're going to wake this kid up to that. That's not always the case with every kid, and you don't, and every circumstance is different. You don't know some of the things. Like, there was an LSU player that got arrested for having a firearm, and the immediate thought is young black kid with a firearm, thug. Well, no, he was arrested for it. Come to find out, it was a registered weapon. He owned the weapon. Hey, this is America. He has a Second Amendment right to own a firearm as long as he went through it the proper way. Like, he has the right to own a firearm. And I don't even necessarily, I'm not trying to get into whether you should or shouldn't have to go. That the law is right now, you have to go through certain channels to, he didn't just go buy it off the street. So there's this assumption, thug, and I'm like, not the case at all. And everyone that I've ever talked to about this kid says he's a pretty good kid. But look, y'all don't know what this kid, you don't know what neighborhood he's from. Like, you don't know there's neighborhoods I'll go into back home where I promise you I'm not going into that neighborhood empty-handed, if you catch my drift. Just you don't know what the situation is. Every situation should be handled differently. And sometimes, so a kid has an arrest, gets arrested for something. It's his first time he's ever been in trouble. I'm supposed to treat him the same way that some kid who's done it now 4, 5, 6 times? No, every kid is different. And the whole point of how you deal with this should be, how can we help this young man get through this and learn from it and become a better man coming out of it? And we all love to rush to judgment because it happened at not our school, but when it happens at our school, it's like, well, no, he's a good kid though. And well, why do you assume that guy's a thug, but the kid at your school you root for is a good kid? And this is all fan bases. This isn't shot at Notre Dame. So my point is, every situation is different. And every punishment should not necessarily be uniform, because certain kids require a different type of punishment for the lesson to be learned, that it doesn't get repeated and you become a better person for it. The issue at Georgia isn't any individual case. It's the prominence of all of them, where there's a clear lack of discipline or desire for character in the program. That's the issue. Every single instance has to be looked at individually. And there's some kids that are getting away with, like, that guy's a bad person. He should not be part of your team, but because your receiving corps stinks and you need pass catchers, you're going to let this guy get away with that because she dropped the charges. I don't care if she dropped the charges. You don't have a right to be a part of this football team. I know what you did. I've seen the photos. Get out of my office. You're not part of this team. We respect women here. You know what I mean? Like, you put your hands on a woman in a very violent fashion. I don't care that you served your time. You're not remorseful for it. Get out. You know what I mean? Then there's a kid that did something like, dude, that was so irresponsible. We're going to work with you to get you better because we care about you as a young man. And so I think every instance is different. The problem at Georgia is not the way that you're saying it. Notre Dame would not have any of those kids still on the team. Yeah, they would. The thing about Notre Dame is there's no way they're going to have 20-some kids get arrested over a 2-year period. That's the bigger problem. And so it's easy to take the shots at the individual players, and some of them deserve it. Some of them are people doing dumb things that we did. It's just nobody was tweeting about how the quarterback at Salisbury University got arrested for speeding. Like, not arrested, but like got in trouble or detained for speeding, like I did once when I was in college, because I was being stupid. I was driving, too fast and recklessly. I didn't have a criminal record. I was a bad guy. But if it were social media back then and people actually gave a rip about what was happening at Salisbury University, then it would have been a bigger deal now. And people just assume things. People read tweets now and just assume it's the truth. And it's like Twitter's become so bad in that regard. And, it's like if it gives us a chance to take a shot at another team, like, cool, take all the shots you want at Kirby Smart. Let's maybe put a little bit more time and research into actually what these young men are going through and what they're doing and what their backgrounds are. Some of them deserve to be hammered. Some of them, it's like, look, your goal is to help these men develop into good young men, and that's the key. Anybody have anything else to add to that?
I nailed it.
I'll say this. It's kind of like when I think of, you go out in public and you hear people all the time talk about how bad this kid is or how bad this kid is if you're at the mall or at a restaurant or whatever, and they are very quick to blame the kids. And this could be naive because I don't have kids yet, but it's to me, that's a parent issue. There's a lot of people that think that collegiate athletes go to college and they're just already grown adults. These are 18, 19, 20-year-old kids, and that's just not the case because we were all there. I cannot confidently say, as much as I wanted to think that I was back when I was going off to college, I was not the grown man that I claimed to be going off to college that I am right now at 28 years old.
Yeah.
And that's the issue. There's a systemic problem at Georgia because there is a culture going on that they view that that's okay. I relate that back
even if they don't think it's okay by allowing it, you can say it's wrong, but then when you allow it to happen, it's going to keep happening.
Exactly.
And this is also not it. Bottom line, Georgia's business is their business. People need to worry about their own house. Bull crap. If your next door neighbor is being abused every day by her husband and you know it, and you as a man stand there and allow it to happen, you are part of the problem. You are part of the problem. It's not what's their business. No, you have an ability to step up and do something about it. We have a right as the media to call someone out who clearly doesn't give a crap about developing young men as long as they can play football. That should be called out and hammered and challenged. It's not their business. Because here's the deal. When a lot of these instances are involving driving, if you get a DUI, it's not your business. You're putting other people's lives at risk by your decisions. That's a fact. And a lot of us have been impacted by people losing their lives because of drunk drivers. So no, that's not their business. You're on a public road driving 100 miles an hour. That's not their business. A player lost his life because this wasn't brought under control. A young woman in the recruiting office lost her life because of this. Henry Ruggs took someone's life because he thought this was something it was acceptable to do. This isn't that. It's not their business. We have a right to call that out. We just have to be willing to say, if it happened at Notre Dame too, we should have the cojones to also do that to the program you root for. And it's not something that happens a couple times. You have more arrests than wins over a 2-year period for a team that has gone 24-3 or 24-4. That's a problem. That's not their business because every single one of those instances of crime, almost every one involves someone else being harmed or potentially put in harm's way. That's different. So it's not that either. It's just that we shouldn't just say, like Trev's point, all these kids are punks and thugs and all this other stuff just because they got in trouble. Like I said, like somebody said it was Malik Neighbors is like perfect example. You know, we just hear young black man with a gun. We just make assumptions about what that means about him. Well, why? I carry a pistol everywhere I go, just about. Vince, you know that. Does that make me a criminal? Does that make me someone who wants to get in a shootout every 5 seconds? No, it doesn't. It means I want to make sure that if I'm ever put in a situation, God forbid, I can defend myself. Well, how do we not know that about that young man that got arrested with a firearm another place? Now, sometimes it's like, okay, this guy was a bad kid and he had bad intentions. Then we deal with that. Then once you know the evidence, once you know what happened, then we can say, okay, here's my opinion of it. But when you just make assumptions about these young men for doing things that, let's be honest, a lot of us did and some of us got caught, some of us didn't, then that's a different deal. Take your fire out on Kirby Smart. That's where all this should be focused on. Take your fire out on him and the athletic director at Georgia, who apparently doesn't seem that this is a problem worth fixing. That's who you take your fire out on, in my opinion. That wasn't expecting it to be that intense this early in the show.
You just never know. That's why the people are in charge, Brian.
That's right.
That's why the people are in charge. Another one from my den. Think anything will change after President Trump's executive order yesterday? I don't think so, but I hope so.
Well, nothing, as far as what I've read, nothing will change because of the EO that he put out. But I don't know that the executive order, if you actually read it, his executive order wasn't meant to necessarily try to create new policy. Like, I have a political issue, and I think this is true for both parties. Bush did it, Obama did it, Trump did it, Biden did it, and Trump's doing it again. That they're doing all these things through executive order. I'm not like, that's necessary at times, but I think we've gone way too far with that. And I think there are more things need to be legislated. And that's one thing I actually liked about his executive order in this instance, is he's directing different cabinet members and different parts of the government to say, I need you to do this and create a law. I need you to go do this and create a law. Some of it will have to go through the legislature. Some of it can be created by, the Department of Education. Some can be, done by other departments where, the Attorney General can have certain things of, hey, if you do this, and we're going to come after you for Title IX. So it's not actually fixing anything. It's directing his administration to start taking steps within areas that they can control to make changes. Now, whether that'll work or not, I don't know. Will they actually pass anything? I don't know. Will those things be challenged and overturned in the courts? I don't know. I don't know any of those things, but it's not where he signs it and all of a sudden things change. That wasn't really the intent of his executive order. The executive order says our administration is going to start taking steps to address these things in ways that we can. We'll see. Some of the things in there I liked, and some of them things I like, I don't think that's really what's needed. But a lot of it are things that I did like, but it's just right now, it's just kind of words on a piece of paper. It's going to be followed up by action is basically what he said. And that's what we'll see. If anything changes, it'll be determined by what comes of that. I just want to follow up because I called out something Kennedy Jones said, and he followed up. He says, my point is criticism of Georgia is about fixing a problem. It's about fans bashing a top program. That I agree with. Because if it was happening at their program, they would make excuses for it. If Ohio State did the cheating that Michigan did, their fans would be excusing it just the way the Michigan fans are. If Notre Dame did that cheating, Notre Dame fans would be excusing it just the way that Michigan fans are, by and large. That's a problem. If something's wrong, it's wrong. And we should be able to call it out in our own programs. And that's a problem I have. We see it in politics. We see it in fan bases. We see it with your people of your denomination. It's like, well, I'll hammer a person who's from that denomination for it, but when my pastor does, you got to understand where he's coming from now. It's like somebody in this party does something and it's like, well, that's wrong. And then your party does, and you're like, well, but it's different this time. I mean, if it's wrong is wrong. If it's wrong to have that type of culture, then we should be able to hammer that type of culture, even if it's our own. And that's why this stuff doesn't change, because the Georgia fan base should be the ones loudest about this. Because, hey, it's a lot of this is happening in Georgia. It's you guys that are being putting at risk with these kids out here doing these things, not us. I'm in Indiana, So I wish we could have more accountability to our own people. I think that's the biggest thing. Like, if a parent's doesn't hold their kids accountable, Vince, you know this. You work in education. If parents don't hold their kids accountable, it's way harder for the outside world to hold them accountable.
100%. That I had I'm obviously not going to use names, but I suspended a kid for doing something at school, and the dad came in and basically said, I'm going to take him out to dinner because I agree with him. It's like, okay, thanks for the help. This
is why your kid's going to end up in jail in 5 years.
Correct. 100%.
Saying that, not Vince.
Right. So, I mean, it is what it is.
But that goes back to what I was saying about when you see a kid misbehaving in public or doing something they shouldn't be, there's people that are very quick to blame the kids, and it's about their role models in that situation. For Georgia, it's the coaching staff and that institution. For Vince's scenario, it's directly related to the parents. But I'm very rarely am I quick to jump on it's the kid's fault. Very rarely.
Yeah. All right, let's get to the next one.
All right, here we go.
Get somebody we haven't had yet. Here we go.
All right. Coleman, long time. All right, here we go. Do you think Brent Venables is one of the great coordinators, but doesn't have quite what it takes to be a great head coach? My opinion is he could be a great head coach at Oklahoma. It's just not. Oh, I see. He could be a great head coach. Oklahoma is just not the place for him.
Yeah, I'm gonna disagree with that. I mean, he played in the Big 12. He played in that region. He played at Kansas State. He's coached at Oklahoma before. If he can't win at Oklahoma, where's he going to win at? I mean, that's a program with great
Well, I was
resources.
going to say, with everything that you get at Oklahoma, too. I mean,
Yeah, if you can't win at Oklahoma, I mean, where are you going to win? Oklahoma A&M? I mean, are you going to go down to the D2 level? I mean, I don't know where you're going to be if you can't win there. I just, yeah, I'm sorry. I mean, like Brian Kelly won at Grand Valley, won at Central Michigan, won at Cincinnati, won at Notre Dame, won at LSU to a degree, right? I mean, like if you're a good coach, you can kind of win everywhere. Now, I think there's fits. So if you're saying, well, let's say Brent Venables was born in Clemson, South Carolina, and lived in Clemson, South Carolina his whole life, and you say, well, I don't know how he's going to fit into the Southwest, but that's not the case for Brent Venables. I mean, he was born in Florida, but he played college football at Kansas State. His entire coaching career was Kansas State from 93 to 98. He was at Oklahoma from 1999 to 2011. Then he spent several years at Clemson from 2012 to 2021. Now he's back at Oklahoma. Like, he's been recruiting that region forever. If he can't win there, I don't know where he's going to win. So I think he's a really good coordinator, and I don't know that he's a good head coach. And I think this year's going to tell us a lot because they did do a good job of restocking that roster, but you're going into year 4 now. And in today's portal era, if you can't get some kind of continuity going, then you're just not that guy. That's my takeaway.
Agreed.
All right.
A. Reagan, do you think this year's USC game is the most important game to the staff and the team on this year's schedule?
I'll tell you what, it will absolutely be the most important game on this team's schedule and for these players beginning October 12th until October 18th. After that, the most important game on their schedule will be Boston College. The week before that, it'll be NC State. Like, the week of that game, that's going to be a big game for them. But do I think it's the most important game to the staff and the team? No, I don't, because number one, it's not until game 1, 3, 4, 5. It's not till game 7. So there's some really big games that has to be played before that. If you're so focused right now on USC, then you're going to overlook some teams that can beat you between now and then. So that's a bigger game for the fan base than it is for the players. For the players, it's a big game. Don't get me wrong, but they're not sitting at home right now as players worrying about what Lincoln Riley's saying like we are, because that's not their job. Their job is to go win football games. Our job is to comment on those things. I'm sure some of the players have an opinion on that, but most of the players on the Notre Dame football team haven't been Notre Dame fans since they were fresh out of diapers like we were. So it's a different point of view. It doesn't mean that they don't have passion about it. It doesn't mean it's not important to them. It doesn't mean they don't respect the rivalry. But when they're getting ready for Miami, they're not in a message board talking about USC and stuff the USC coach is saying. You get what I'm saying? So it's very important to them, and it'll be a huge game when you get to that week. But is it the most important game? I don't think so. I mean, because if you lose to Miami and Texas A&M,
every game's really important after that.
Yeah.
I mean, look, every player, every coach looks at a schedule every year, and you circle certain games because they mean something to you or whatever. And I'm sure the USC game means a lot to the kids that are from Southern California. It means a lot to if they have been Notre Dame fans their whole life. There's certain games that are circled, right? That's just that we do that, right? As fans, we do that all the time. Like, there's certain games that we're all looking forward to. I do that with my kids' schedules, all of those things. There's certain games you look forward to. The reality is it is week to week. You're trying to win the next game on your schedule. I mean, that as a coach and as a player, you can't be like, well, don't worry, 5 weeks from now, that's the big one. Don't worry about what you do now. And I'm not trying to patronize anybody, because I know you guys know that. And I understand where this question comes from, because it is a big game, especially for us. But as a coach, you can't operate that way as a coach and a player. You can't, because you lose focus, and then you lose games that you shouldn't lose, and you can't do that.
Well, to your point, Vince, when I made the transition to join Irish Breakdown, and now I look at Notre Dame in a different light. Still a fan like we all are, still love Notre Dame, but it's different. You look at if you talk to a general fan, I would say the majority of the fan base, a lot of it is, the Miami and USC game, and I get it. Hey, Reagan, where you're coming from, it's not a ludicrous thing that we're all like, how could you think that? I get that entirely. But we've also said this offseason that Texas A&M has the more talented roster, and it may be the more tougher game. But what fans remember is the last time they played Miami down in Hard Rock Stadium, they lost 41-8. They're not as worried about Texas A&M because their last memory of that matchup was Notre Dame winning 23-13 on the road in College Station. And so it's a different light when it's painted by fans versus what the football program has to keep an eye out on. I don't think that's ludicrous, but what you're saying, but to their points, the football program is not looking at it. This could be the last time it's the rivalry in the regular season and all this stuff going on with Chad Bowden. And then we gotta make our mark. They want to make their mark, but they also want to make their mark against Miami and Texas A&M and Purdue and Stanford and Navy. And so they look at it with a different light, but I definitely get where you're coming from.
John A1. Now that Notre Dame will have a quarterback who was developed in the program, only one position coach, and going into the second year with the OC, will the pre-snap operations improve to include setting protections?
Riley set protections last year. I don't know if there's an implication there, but I will say this, that not every time the offensive line gave up a pressure, it was an offensive lineman make a mistake. Sometimes I'd watch, like, why did they slide that way? That was not the way they should have slid. And when you slide, so a slide protection is essentially, depending on how you teach it, some teams teach full slide, so everybody turns away from the call. So if I'm calling a slide protection to the left, everybody slides away and the running back will go take the edge. That's usually for like quick game, and I don't know that a lot of teams do that full slides now. Normally it's like the tackle will take that guy, and then the first uncovered sets the slide away. So like if there's an end on the tackle and a three technique over the guard, and they're sliding right, and the left guard and left tackle have a guy over them, then the center starts to slide. They go base block. The center starts to slide, and then the back has to know who he's sliding off of. But there were times last year where Notre Dame was sliding away from a three-man side, and you're like looking at the protection like that's not where you should have slid, in my opinion. Didn't happen a ton, but it happened enough where you notice it. And I wouldn't say it was even the primary driver of the protection issues. It just happened enough where it's like you got to get better at it. So yeah, I would hope that gets better because, I mean, again, CJ Carr and Kenny Minchie have been in this offense way longer than Riley Leonard have. They have taken way more snaps in this offense in practice than what Riley Leonard will have taken by the time he played against Texas A&M last year, because they will have been in the system for an extra year. So yeah, I will say that I expect those things to improve.
Yeah.
I don't think the one position coach matters as much, but because I think the O-line was all mostly working with the same guy for a second year too.
I mean, I'll say this would be my expectation even if Riley Leonard was coming back. Mm-hmm. You had a 1-year offensive coordinator in Mike Denbrock last year. He's going into year 2. I think naturally some stuff like that, John, will get cleaned up as there's more time in this system. There's more. I get where you're coming from with its, quarterback who has now been developed with this program. But, last fall when Mike Denbrock came to South Bend and started working with CJ Carr and Kenny Minchie, Riley Leonard also got to Notre Dame and started working with Mike Denbrock. It was a little different because Riley Leonard wasn't on the field. But as far as time with Mike Denbrock, it's kind of been the same. I would have that expectation if Riley Leonard was coming back or not, just because it's his second year.
This question just got submitted, and I have never seen a question like it.
Okay.
And I want to answer it.
From Josh Buffo, the motivational business banker. BD, if you were going to write a biography or a book on Lou Somogyi, what would you call it and why? Thank you, guys.
Well, first of all, I would have, before I ever wrote something like that, and I would not be qualified to write it. That's not the kind of writing I'm good at. But if I were to decide to do that, I would first talk with Tim Priester and see if it's something he wanted to do. Because Tim and Lou worked together forever. They had incredible respect for each other. They were friends. And I know Lou adored Tim, and I know that Tim thought very highly of Lou. Could not find two different personalities, which is why I think they worked so well together. And it's why I think I worked well with Lou, because he's a very different personality than mine. But as far as what I would title it, I don't know what my title would be, but I would somehow want to incorporate his knowledge of Notre Dame football and his absolute humility as a human being. Because humility in the way that I see it, and the way that Lou possessed it, it was not a humility where there was just a lack of appreciation for his own greatness, but it was a humility in a way where he had such a deep care for people. You know, it's like, Vince, you remember when we lost Brady. We were friends at the time, and you remember how hard that was for Angela and I. And I remember Lou coming and calling me and talking to me about it and checking in on me, and he starts crying. And it's not because he was going to miss Brady. He's an animal lover, but it's more so he saw where my heart was, and it just hurt his heart to see that mine was going through a tough time. Like, that's just the kind of guy he was. He wrote us a card, and you know, he was such a genuinely sweet man. And people would come up to him, and I've shared this before. People would come up to him, and we'd be walking to the press conference after a game. People would come up to him like, "Oh, you're Lou Emoji. Yeah, I love your stuff." And he'd be like, "I don't understand why people." He's like, "That happens to me all the time. I don't understand why." Genuinely did not understand why people cared about meeting him. And I'm like, "Lou, you're a legend, dude." "Oh, stop it." And it was a real humility. Vince, you had to work with him for a while. You replaced me at BGI, and you got to work with him, and it's just like,
I remember very vividly, because I knew you before I knew Lou, right? Because Lou was always kind of
quiet,
on a pedestal and quiet for me. He, like, you know what I mean? Because it was Lou Emoji, you know what I mean?
Right.
And you and I were walking out of a practice, and it was the three of us walking, and technically I was working for Blue and Gold. I was technically his colleague. I was nervous. I didn't say anything. Like, I'm just walking. Like, I can't talk to Lou. Like, he's gonna think I'm stupid. You know, like, because of where I held him in the pantheon of Notre Dame writers. Like, it was Lou Emoji. Like, are you kidding? And then when you left and it was just me and him doing shows together, the most intimidating thing I've ever done in my entire life. Like, and he was the nicest human on the planet.
Yeah. And it's genuine. It was real.
But I was so intimidated to sit there, and even like, I would just throw him questions and he'd be like, "Vince, you need to talk more." Like,
yeah. You know? Like, I've been doing this with Brian. He talked a lot. I need you to talk more.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was, and you know, when I first joined the beat, Tim and Lou both were so kind to me for no reason whatsoever. I was just some guy working for an independent site, and they didn't know me from Adam, but they just were like, just because who they are, you know, and being able to call both of them friends after growing up as a kid, looking forward to getting my Blue and Gold Illustrated magazine as a kid, you know, and you know, it was because of Tim and Lou were Blue and Gold Illustrated. Brian Driscoll wasn't, Stu Coleman wasn't, whoever's writing for him now, with all due respect, they were Blue and Gold Illustrated. That's the standard that we all live up to. And so when you do a show, like, I would want to do a great show because I was trying to live up to Lou's standard. And I loved doing shows with him. But somebody said the Oracle of ND, the Irish Angel, like those are some interesting ones. But it would have to be something that because, like, it was funny. We were at a game. This has happened often. We were at a game once, and they were playing. I think it was the game. I can't remember. It was a game in 2017, I believe, and they ran for a bunch of yards at home. And maybe it was the game at BC, but no, it wasn't at BC because he wouldn't have been there. But it was a game at home, and they after the game, the Humble Legend. This is great. That's a great one. The Humble Legend. That's a really good one. But they used to send out. I don't really know if they do it anymore. Like, but they would give us printouts of stats, relevant stats, like the rushing yards in this game are the most since whenever. And Lou would walk back there, and he'd go up to Michael Birch, and he'd politely be like, "Hey, just so you know, this is wrong. Actually, the last time they rushed for this many yards was actually against Purdue in 1992." And what, you know what's funny? What they would do? They'd immediately just change it. They wouldn't go look it up. They would just assume that Lou knew what he was talking about.
They would ask him. They would ask him as opposed to looking it up. They'd be like, "Hey, Lou,
I did that all the time.
Is this right?"
Like working with Lou made research so much easier. I remember one time I was talking about Torian Folsom going into the 2015 season because I thought Torian was very underrated. And I was like, you know, I said, "Hey, Lou, who has the most yards rushing for, their first 2 years of Notre Dame. And he's like, it's like Darius Walker, this amount. And it's like Vegas Ferguson or something like that, this amount. And he lists all the guys. It was Darius Walker. It was a couple other guys. And Torian's got such and such. So it's like, he was like fourth. And like, all right, thanks, Lou. Now I'd have to kind of, okay, let me pull up the Notre Dame stat sheet and let me look up seasons and let me add it up. And Lou just off top of his head just knew it. And I would mess with him sometimes, and it was fun. I think I've told us one time this is exactly how I said it. I said, "Hey Lou, who was the third string quarterback on the 1968 team?" And his desk wasn't really a cubicle, but his desk was here, and his back was to me, and then my desk was up against the other wall, and my back was to him. So I turned around. So Lou was and he just wheels his chair around, just like spins it around. He's like, "Okay, it was so and so." And he was a really good player from such and such, and he was a 3-sport star. He was a star in basketball and also track. And he starts naming this guy. Like, I never heard of this guy before. But, like, it just off the top of his head, Lou just knew exactly who it was. And I don't know that I ever asked him a question he had to look up. There was a couple times he'd give me the answer, and then, let me make sure I'm sure on that. And then he'd look it up, and he was always right. It's like, I don't know why you doubt yourself, Lou. But he was just such an awesome guy. And just like, he was like, you ever see the TV show Suits? Like, he's Mike Ross of Notre Dame. Like, that's Lou Samoji. He's just total recall. It just amazing recall. The best part about it is he kept a landline active in our office. And keep in mind that landlines are, even then, this is 2018. 2019 when I left, not many people use landlines, but you know why he did it? Because he knew there were still older customers, older subscribers in their 60s, 70s, and 80s that still use landlines who like to call, and he would take those calls either to answer questions, but a lot of times they just want to talk to him. And he would talk to him. He would answer questions. He'd be like, "Hey, Dave, how are you?" And I'd like, "Who's that?" He goes, "Oh, it's a longtime subscriber." And he made the owners of BGI keep that landline active with that number that's been there all that time, so the older customers could call and have a way to ask questions. Like, who thinks of that? Lou does. That's who does. And it just was just that level of thoughtfulness for everyone around him. And like, the world was definitely a better place when he was in it.
I think he just wrote the foreword to the book.
Yeah. But it was just the biggest honor of my life was not covering any particular game. It was getting to work with Lou. And I said that before he passed. And I mean it even more now that there's so many, even now, Vince, there's times where I wish I could call Lou. I wish I could talk to Lou, because I truly think Lou would have adored Marcus Freeman as head coach. I think he would have loved covering Marcus Freeman, because he put a lot of value in what is Notre Dame, what kind of image is Notre Dame presenting to the world. He put a lot of thought into Notre Dame should be a force for good also, not just a good football program. I think he would really respect the way that Marcus Freeman runs his program. I really do. And I miss him a bunch. And he was our neighbor also, Vince. Well, were you with me when we went to the Japanese steakhouse, Hanayori? And one of the guys there, what are they called? The
chefs, the hibachi chefs or whatever.
Yeah. And he was a neighbor of Lou's, and he starts talking about Lou. He's like, "Oh, you covered Notre Dame?" "Yeah, I used to." Lou Samoji's my neighbor. I said, "Yeah, I know, dude. We've been here before with him and you." Like, I know you've got a lot of guests over the years, but yes, but he just made that kind of impact on people, And I just was happy he found love before, the couple years he got married in the year or two before he passed, and he just adored Amalia, and just such a sweet man, but loved Notre Dame, and just really just a great guy all around. So I was blessed to have him in my life for the period of time that I did. I truly was. Thanks for asking that. I want to make sure that we're always willing to talk about Lou, because I don't want Lou's memory to fade, and because he was awesome. Like, whenever it says, "Oh, you're like Lou," I'm like, no, you guys don't understand. I know that answer because I looked it up and researched it. Now I remember it. Like, Lou already knew that answer. Like, or I learned that from Lou.
Yeah, because he lived it and he remembers like everything that he lived through as far when it comes to Notre Dame.
He had his own kind of Rudy story. He had to go to Holy Cross for a couple years, and then his mom worked, I think, in the cafeteria on campus, and I think his dad worked on campus, and that come through school, and he loves Notre Dame, graduated from Notre Dame, didn't play sports, wrote for the local school paper, and he loved Notre Dame as an institution, not just. And he's very unique. Like, he played the organ at his church, and like, he was a very unique guy. Yeah. Let's go here to here's one from John A1.
All right. He says, would your personnel package change at all if you were trying to maintain spread formations, but have a power run focus versus speed tempo focus versus vertical threat focus? There's a lot here.
I think you need to be. I think you can do both out of both. Like, I think you can do both out of whatever personnel you choose to run outside of like 10. But like, Notre Dame's 11 and an 11-12 personnel team, KG 20 and 21, but they're primarily 11 and 12. I think last year showed you can be a very run-oriented team, power run-oriented team out of 11 personnel. In fact, a lot of games where I broke the game down, they ran better out of 11 personnel, efficiency-wise and yards per carry-wise, out of 11 personnel. And now that was aided by having a guy like Riley Leonard, because you could get an extra hat in the run game with your running back as a lead blocker, but I think you can do both. And you can also be a 12 personnel team that can be vertically threat focused. You just have to make sure your personnel at those spots fits it. And that's really what it comes down to, John. It's not so much my desire to be power run focused or tempo versus vertical threat focused. It's, do I have the personnel to carry it off a certain way? And I believe that if you can have a power rushing attack while still maintaining the ability to spread the field, that makes you very hard to defend. Very hard to defend. And I would like to see Notre Dame do more of that. But like 2020, Alabama ran a lot of 12 personnel. People don't realize that. They ran a lot of 12 personnel that year. And they still didn't lose the threat of running the football. They were just real creative in how they did it. Steve Sarkisian's very good at finding. And I'm like, how are you not prepared for that two-man route? And you're like, well, look at the formation, look at the backfield action, and look at the tendencies that they show out of that. And then you realize what he did, and you're like, oh yeah, that guy's really smart. So that's the thing, is you got to make sure that you have the personnel to carry it out. So I don't think the personnel has to change unless your personnel is just not good. Like, meaning, like, you don't have, like, in theory, 11 personnel can do this just like 12 personnel can do this, but it just depends on what type of players you have in that personnel. You could have 11 personnel and not be good at vertical threat focus because you have vertical threat players. You know what I mean? But if I have we were talking the other day about, we had the buy so hold on Wednesday of who do we take? Vince, it was Ken McAfee, Tyler Eifert, and Michael Mayer. And so we answered that question, but it's like, if I was in 12 personnel and I had Tyler Eifert at tight end, Troy Nicholas at tight end, Will Fuller at wide receiver, and Golden Tate or Michael Floyd at wide receiver, guess what I can do out of that 12 personnel? I can go 4 verts, and you're going to have problems. It's like if I had Tyler Eifert and Alize Mack and Will Fuller and Michael Floyd as my 4 pass catchers, guess what? I can go 4 verts. But if I'm going 10 personnel and I've got, Robbie Paris and, Theo Riddick, and I'm trying to think of some other guys that weren't necessarily burners, but, good players, Ben Skoranek, and I'm trying to, what's the guy's name? He's married to the basketball. What's his name? He's married to Skylar Diggins. What's his name? The wide receiver. Daniel Smith. If those are my 4 receivers and 10 personnel, I'm not running vert. Now, Robbie Toma's a good football player, but Robbie Toma's work is being done 10 to 15 yards and in. Robbie Parrish did some nice things for Notre Dame, but his work was being done 15 yards and in.
Daniel Smith really well for you on the
Right.
outside. He's one of the best blocking wide receivers I've ever seen.
Played a great role on that team back then
100%.
as a blocker.
Yes.
So those are good football players, but they're not designed just because they're receivers, not designed to have a vertically oriented football team. Just as if, and Theo Riddick was a heck of a player too, but he was a quick game, quick seam, things like that. Just like if I had Will Fuller and Chris Brown and Kevin Stepherson and trying to think of another fast, skinny guy, a receiver, Braden Lindsey as my 4 receivers, I may be vertically focused. I ain't running the football real well outside because I ain't blocking a whole lot out there. You know what I mean? Like it just, if you can fit whatever personnel you want, as long as that personnel fits that. So I don't think you have to be 12 to do this or have to be 11 to do this, or you need bigger. You just need to find guys that are good at things. I've seen big guys that can't block, and I've seen little guys that block their butts off. Who was it that they had in the slot a couple years? I mean, Chris Fink would by the end of his career would battle you in the slot. Robbie Toma will fight you in the slot. I mean, he would like literally fight you, not literally fight you, but like just like battle with you for an entire game.
Fight with you in a football sense. Yeah.
Right. Correct. But, so, and I've seen bigger guys that are just like, dude, you kind of punked out there, man. Like, I don't know what your deal is out there, but just, you got to have the personnel to fit it. Real quick, did you guys all see this? Did you? Okay. Trev, I want to get your thoughts on this. Vince, did you see this?
Nope.
Okay.
I did not. So
go ahead.
But I'll throw it out to you guys though. He says, thoughts on Death Valley Jr. comments from Brian Kelly. I've never wanted Clemson to win. Did he really say that?
Yep.
Yeah. Said that LSU's was the actual look. I mean,
okay.
I think that's just kind of a testament to who he is. We brought up Brian Kelly a lot, and you have a head coach that's more concerned over who has the unofficial title of what stadium it is more so than winning the game in said stadium. I mean, look, at the end of the day, this sparked some interesting research, and I went through and I looked, and I was like, because after I read the chat come in and then remembering what Brian Kelly said about it, I went and looked, and moral of the story is it kind of just depends on which program you ask of who got the nickname first in the lore of the, LSU claims that they got it in 1958, but then Clemson claims they got it like a decade earlier because of something that happened in like the 1932 Olympics. And it's a whole thing. But at the end of the day, not something that a coach who was 0-0 in opening games at LSU should be concerned about.
So here's his quote. This is the quote he said, just so we're clear. He said he was talking about Tiger Stadium is the real Death Valley, and he goes, you want great habits when they're needed, talking about his team, when you're on the road and you're playing at Death Valley Junior, not Death Valley. So it was one of those things where it was typical of Brian Kelly. He wasn't doing it to, like, he says things, he thinks he's a lot funnier than he is.
That's the point.
Like,
right?
he's trying to be funny. He's not trying to be disrespectful to Clemson.
He's comes off is not funny.
That's I mean, if I didn't, like, you all know how I feel about Brian Kelly. So it'd be very easy for me to sit there and hammer him. He's not trying to be a jerk here. He may be one, but I didn't take his comments as an attempt to start the fight that has followed, Trev, with what you're talking about. But it's just, why? You're not funny. Like, you're not. You have delivered so many. Like, he really thinks the Notre Dame media had no sense of humor. Like, no, you're just not funny.
Well, it's like he
would say things like, "Oh, you guys will do this." Like, no, we don't think it's funny because you're not funny
all the time. And it was like the are you in favor of execution, or I'm in favor of execution. That whole, remember that whole thing that he did?
Yes.
Like, he thought it was hilarious, but everybody else is like, wow. There were a lot of press conferences that I sat in with Brian Kelly where you just kind of sat there like, can't believe you just said that. Because he thinks he's funny, but it doesn't come off that way.
And I promise you, in this instance, I promise you, I know Brian. You guys know I know Brian Kelly. I can read that guy like a first grade book. He was not trying to be like to start a fight
No, not at all.
He was not trying to start it's just he was trying to be funny. He's just not funny. And so it comes off very dry, and that's when people can take it as they're taking it. It's like, and then also there's just a couple coaches you don't want to give bulletin board material to. Marcus Freeman's becoming that. And we've learned that, especially last year. Like, that's not the guy you want to piss off. Because James Franklin learned that, and some other schools have learned that. Kirby's a guy you don't want to piss off. Like, Kirby's great at being, and Bill Bender nailed this going into the first Texas game last year. He's like, Kirby got him right where he wants him. I'm like, do explain. He's like, because nobody thinks George is going to win this game, and Kirby's playing the disrespect card like crazy. With all due respect to Kirby, nobody plays the disrespect card better than Dabo. Trev's pointed out he plays the disrespect card when his team's the defending national champions and the preseason number 1 ranked team, and he'll play the Roy Bus.
Sure
card,
will.
You know what I mean?
Sure will.
And it works. It works.
The rest
Do
of y'all.
do you really want to be handing Dabo Swinney that? This
Right.
is a guy that you're 1-2 against, and the only game you beat them, you needed overtime, and they didn't have Trevor Lawrence, Mike Jones.
And you didn't have the quarterback or their 3
It's
best
like, and then when you got a
players.
rematch against them with those guys back, they destroyed you in the ACC title game. Like, this is the guy you want to be given that ammo to. It's like, it's just silly, but he wasn't trying to do that. It wasn't his attempt to pick a fight. It's just, he can't help himself. He just thinks he's really funny. And it's just like, there just was no need for that. There's no need for that. You want to say that privately to your coaches or whatever, that's fine. But he makes those kind of missteps all the time. Yeah.
Just being corny. I hate when coaches are corny, man.
Yeah.
I really do.
And Dabo did not disrespect Brian Kelly. Dabo thought a singer was Brian Kelly.
Right.
He didn't know that there was a singer named Brian Kelly. He's texting Brian Kelly thinking Brian Kelly's going to be is going to be at this thing. He was not making fun of Brian Kelly. Come on. He was not at all. But I take no malice in what Brian Kelly was doing when he called it death. I think he was just trying to be funny. It's just unfortunately he's just not funny.
It just doesn't come off as funny. That's the problem.
It doesn't. When he says it, he just doesn't. It doesn't.
And everybody in this chat knows somebody like this that just thinks they're so funny and the jokes just fall flat every time.
Yeah.
Like, everybody knows that person, and that's just BK. That's just who he is.
Yeah.
And he doesn't. I agree with you. There's no ill intent there. Right. And it's just
because he likes Dabo. He respects Dabo.
Sure.
Dabo, there's like they get along well. There's no disrespect there between the two. He's just being funny. Yeah. But fans also, let's be honest, fans have no sense of humor when it's another team.
Absolutely.
Let's be honest about that. It's like fans are the epitome of the Bob Uecker scene in Major League 2. We saw about Jack Parkman doing that shimmy that all the women in Cleveland love. And then he's with the White Sox doing that shimmy that all the women in Cleveland hate. Yeah, that's exactly how we are as fans. If a guy does something and he's your coach, we'll defend it. When he does something and he's the other team's coach, what an idiot. I just never thought he had a sense of humor, even when he was coaching the team that I covered. But he wasn't trying to start anything.
No.
He just was being himself and trying to be funny, and it fell flat.
Being himself.
Yeah.
So true.
Which is just him not being funny, but he really thinks he's funny. And one thing I learned about Brian Kelly is he doesn't surround himself with enough people that tell him the truth.
That's a fact.
That's a big part of his problem.
Yeah.
And he needs someone to say, Brian, you got to stop with the jokes because it's just not. It's like I got to spend all this time getting you out of trouble because you say these dumb things. So, yeah. But there was no malice. He was not trying to disrespect Clemson with that comment. He just was trying to be funny.
Agreed. Aiden, you're the head coach at Notre Dame. Hey, congratulations. Houston and Gerard both want to come to Notre Dame. Who you taking? Each bring different aspects and levels to the table.
Honestly, whoever wanted to come first. I mean, that's kind of the decision that Notre Dame made is whoever wants to come first. They offered 2 guys, and they said whoever wants to come first. To answer the question where I think you're going with it, what are you banking on? What do you need more? A higher floor or higher ceiling? Part of it depends on what your needs are as a program. If you feel like, hey, where we are at quarterback, I want more of the upside in this class, then you're going to take Teddy Gerard. If you're like, Luke, we can't afford to miss on a quarterback in this class, I'd go Peyton Houston. I think Peyton Houston is, in my opinion, the best quarterback I've seen in the 27 class so far, right now. And I don't know that it's overly close. He's unbelievable. I can't guarantee you he's going to be the best quarterback from this class in 4 years. And that's the gamble. And Notre Dame was fine with either, so they would have taken either. But just in theory, it just depends on what you're looking for. I usually tend to lean towards the upside, but I love Peyton Houston. I mean, he was my top quarterback. But as I said at the time, I mean, we did a breakdown where we broke down Peyton and broke down Teddy. And if you listen to my breakdown of Houston, it was way more favorable than my breakdown for Teddy because he's further along than Teddy is today. Much further along. What Notre Dame was banking on, which is why they like Teddy so much, is they think, well, that's true, but in 3 years when it matters and they're at Notre Dame, we think Teddy's going to be every bit as good, if not maybe better. And that was the gamble they took. Now, that's why I say your answers, if we're talking about this practically, looking at it front, because like you didn't ask me who I like as an analyst. You said if I'm the head football coach of Notre Dame, I'd have to evaluate where my program is and what my needs are. I would probably, because I had, in successive years, Kenny, CJ, Blake, Noah, and now this class, I'm more willing to gamble on the upside because I have Noah Grubbs a year ahead of him, Blake Hebert a year ahead of that, and CJ Carr a year ahead of that. I'd probably gamble on the upside. And if I felt Teddy was the higher upside player and they both wanted to come, first of all, I'd see if they both would be willing to come together and compete. I mean, why would you not take both of them? But if I could only have one, I'd probably err on the side of the upside guy. But there's no wrong answer.
I was going to say, it depends on what you're looking for.
Yeah. If you want the higher floor, then you go with Peyton.
Right.
And Trev, do you have a thought on that?
I mean, it's just tough because we've only seen them play their sophomore year of high school. It's so tough for me, right? It's so tough for me to say I would take so-and-so over so-and-so when we're talking about 2 15 or 16-year-olds. It's going to depend on what the rest of their high school career pans out to be. Now, I'm not naive to the fact that Notre Dame can't wait until they watch them play their senior year of high school to then offer them to see if they come to South Bend. I understand that as well. But I fall right in line with what you guys are talking about. I think Notre Dame's quarterback room is now in a spot where you can take a risk and bank on the higher upside kid than in Teddy Gerard. I don't know if he has a higher upside than Peyton Houston, but I'm talking, he has the frame for it. He's 6'3". He's going to be well over 200 pounds by the time he gets to South Bend, but you have to see it first. I think it depends on more the spot that your program is in, and I would go with Teddy Gerard. And Teddy Gerard's the one that picked Notre Dame, but you can't go wrong if you get Peyton Houston either.
It's a win-win.
It's just so tough when we're talking about two kids that haven't played their junior year of high school yet, of who I'd rather have today, who I'd rather have today for the future. That's a tough ask.
Another one from A. Reagan. Was it easier for refs to fix games in the 90s and before? And which games have you watched that you were more certain that were fixed?
Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals when the Bulls beat the Pacers. I thought that series was, it might have been Game 6, but I thought that series was absolutely 100% rigged. I never bought into the refs are, but that series was like, it was so poorly officiated in one direction that I was like, that's on the take. I think NBA especially is the easiest sport to rig, in my opinion. Basketball is.
So many judgment calls. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's also the easiest game to fix because you can just slightly use your jumper to make something.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So it's like,
absolutely.
It's just a different animal. Is it easier today than it was? I don't know. I honestly have no idea.
Maybe it's harder because of the computers and the video and like the analysis and things like that. Maybe, maybe you can get caught easier, I guess is the best way to put it. Betting is just so prevalent now too. It's so like everybody does it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's a broad brush, but you know what I'm saying? It's available to everybody. It's not like it used to be where betting was like you had to go to the, the corner barber shop and do it,
You had your bookie down the street.
Yeah.
Some people still do that though.
Oh, I know they do. I know they do. But
It's wild.
The three of us, if we wanted to bet on something, we could. It's just so much more mainstream now than it ever was.
It's also more
before.
accepted now too, where
Absolutely.
it's not you're a degenerate, go take care of your family. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
just like, look, I budget for it. It's like I don't gamble very often. I don't even know what you call me gambling. Like every now and then, every 5, 6, 7 years, if my family's taking a trip to Vegas or Atlantic City, I'll go to a casino.
Right.
But I budget it like a trip. Okay, if I was going to spend $300-$400 on a vacation, then I use $304 in the casino, and if I lose it, I lose it. If I win, great.
And that's what you
I'm
have
paying
to
for
do.
dinner.
It's what you have to do.
Right.
Yeah. I budget for football season.
Yeah, right. And like, look, of the 3 people doing the show, 2 people in this show gamble, 1 doesn't. I mean, so it's like the guy that doesn't's in the minority in this. So to some degree, I mean,
yeah.
Gambling is also, I mean, you to me, it's like you pay $20 to be in a fantasy league. That to me is
that is gambling. Yeah, that's gambling.
It's lower risk, lower cost.
Sure.
But I've been in fantasy baseball leagues back when I first got married. I couldn't imagine doing that now, just with the time and stuff.
Oh my gosh, you have to spend so much time.
Yeah,
I forget to set my rosters for football fantasy, let alone baseball. It's every day.
Well, I would. So the one I was in, you could actually set your roster for the week. But if there's days where a guy got benched and I couldn't, I couldn't see it. But for the most part, you kind of see it. But yeah, I don't know if it's any easier now or not. I honestly don't know. It's not something I spent a lot of time thinking about. But 90s basketball to me was a very rigged game. And not just like pro Michael. I'm not making a pro. Oh, they just rigged it for Michael Jordan. That particular series is one, but like I just have always felt that the NBA is like, because there was no consistency within the official. And you're like, this guy, boy, that's weird. And it's like, why are they swallowing their whistles now? Sometimes officials call games different because they don't like somebody. Like there was 2 officials, Ted Valentine and Ed Hightower, that always did Michigan games when the Fab Five was there. And I've told you guys before, I was a Michigan basketball fan back in the day and loved the Fab Five. And I just swear that Ted Valentine and Ed Hightower hated the Fab Five. And they would just terrible officiating those games. I don't know if I watch those games as a 40-year-old compared to a 15-year-old that I'd still feel the same way. But like at the time as a teenager, that's how I felt. Like, man, this guy's always hammering the Fab Five. But yeah, I don't think most are that way. At least I hope that most aren't that way. But yeah, I think there's some of that.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's a referee in the NBA right now, and his nickname is the Extender. Like they bring him in Game 3 or Game 4 of a playoff series, and then miraculously, it's a game where the most fouls are called, and it's always in favor of the team that's down in the series. And it's it's Scott Foster, and he was a part of
that this year, right?
Yeah, he was a part of the scandal of when those NBA refs got actually caught, like putting money on games. Like he was involved with it. He had like logged in his phone over like 150 phone calls between the guy that got caught putting money on games and all this other stuff. And yeah, his nickname's the Extender.
I've always felt that the NBA there was something to the NBA in that regard. Oh, well.
From A. Reagan, name one quarterback in the last decade that if they were with the Irish, they would have won the national championship. My pick, his, is Bo Nix.
Well, 2018, pick any other quarterback that was in the playoff that year, put him on the Notre Dame roster, and that Notre Dame team wins championship.
I agree with
wholeheartedly feel that. But the most obvious one is if Lamar Jackson was Notre Dame's quarterback in 2017.
Yeah.
That team doesn't get touched. Because, like, he was more dynamic as a runner than Brandon Wimbush, but was a legit thrower.
Yeah.
I mean, people forget Lamar threw for over 3,000 yards the year he won the Heisman Trophy and still ran for like 1,700 yards. Let me look up his stats that year because it was one of the most incredible stat lines we've ever seen. But Lamar in 2017, the year that Notre Dame would have had him, there was the year after he won the Heisman. He passed for 3,660 yards, 27 touchdowns, 10 picks, rushed for 1,601 yards and 18 touchdowns. Could you imagine him behind that Notre Dame offensive line in 2017, handing off to Josh Adams and Dexter Williams and Tony Jones Jr. and and throwing to Equanimous St. Brown and Chase Claypool and Chris Fink. I mean, could you imagine what that team would have looked like with him at quarterback? Are you kidding me? I can tell you one thing, they don't lose to Miami, and they don't lose to Stanford. They're in the playoff that year. I don't know who stops that team in 2017 if Lamar Jackson's their quarterback, because he would have fit so perfectly into that system too.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that it's not just, of course, he's the best quarterback in the country. No, he fit what they needed to be that team that year to a T, because he was every bit the runner Brandon was plus some, but he was a significantly better thrower. I don't know how you beat that team in 2017, and that's the one I will always go with. And no, Johnny Manziel in 2012, Notre Dame does not win a title. Quarterback was not their problem in 2012. Quarterback was not their problem against Alabama in that game in 2012.
No.
Maybe Johnny leads them some more points, but they're still getting crushed.
Yeah.
Yep. And yes, Lamar Jackson would have put up those numbers in the SEC if he played for an SEC team. That's the thing. Oh, you wouldn't do that in the SEC. Well, yeah, if he was playing on Louisville's team, he might not have done that. But if you put him on another SEC team, he's absolutely doing that. You're telling me he couldn't put up better numbers than Johnny Manziel? Are you kidding me? Give me a break. Of course he could. Yeah. Let's see here.
From Johnny 1, limiting you to a top 3, which players do you hope become or maintain national level stars on offense? My 3 are J. Love, E. Raridan, and Malachi Fields.
It's hard for me to disagree with that one. The only one that I would maybe consider changing is Eli Raridan and saying like Anthony Knapp becomes an All-American.
I wanted to get a lineman in there too. Yeah.
I mean, having your left tackle be elite, you could throw CJ Carr in there over Eli Raridan.
Either or quarterback. Yeah.
But that's a good list too, John. Love and Malachi are for certain on that list for me. Like those are no-brainers for me.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good options for the number 3 guy. And like I said, maintain or become, because obviously you want to have Jeremiah Love on there, but you need him to, because if he takes a step back and other guys take a step forward, then how much of is it a wash? But yeah, Malachi Love for sure, and either CJ Carr, Anthony Knapp for my other one. It's a good question.
Coleman Smith, why do you think Notre Dame in recent history looks sluggish in the first couple of home games? Bad home schedule?
Well, I don't think so. I think part of it has been that they have played such big games the week before. I think there's a reason that Vince, we said going into the season of 2022 that Marshall was a trap game for us. I mean, you and I argued about that in a show because about why I thought that was a trap game. And it wasn't so much because of Marshall. I thought they were a decent team, but it was more so win or lose, there's going to be some sort of letdown that next week. Either the letdown is the dejection of you spent all offseason trying to beat Ohio State and you lose, or you're feeling so good about yourself that we just beat Ohio State at Ohio State that we overlook Marshall. And we thought that Northern Illinois might be a tougher game last offseason too. I didn't envision them losing, but there was a thought that it might be tougher because of the potential letdown coming out of the Texas A&M game. So I think that's been a big part of the reason too. Is you look, football is an emotional sport. Always has been, always will be. And there's always, especially when you're dealing with young people, there's always sort of that I think somebody said it earlier. These are not professional athletes. I don't care that they're getting paid. They're still not professional athletes. They're still 18, 19, 20, 21 years old. And they still fall victim to the sociological, physiological, mental development of an 18-year-old. Now, there are those that are advanced, but most 18-year-olds are not as mature as they will be when they're 30. They don't have the life experience, they don't have the playing experience, all those type of things. Part of the reason NFL players have the maturity they have is because they went through college and did that and did all this kind of stuff. These are still young people that are make the same kind of mistakes all other young people make at that age and have the same level of focus. And hey, we've arrived moments. And that's why last year's teams what they did. So I just think it really comes down to, guys, it's the opening game. And they've been road games. I mean, Notre Dame has started the season off on the road every year since 2020. That's the last time they started a season at home, because 2021 they started at Florida State. They came back that next week, big win over Florida State, struggle against Toledo.
Yeah,
that's it.
I think another factor too is just the level of the opponent. Them opening up at home against Texas A&M is their biggest home opener since 2018.
Right, they won't look at A&M the same way they looked at Northern Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep. It's a lot easier to get up for Michigan at home or Texas A&M at home under the lights than it is for Toledo, Marshall, Northern Illinois, Duke in 2020, New Mexico State in 2019. I mean, it's just so yeah, I'm with you.
That's just human nature,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's human nature.
Right.
And when everybody's telling you about the big game you just had on the road, and it's, everybody's looking past your next game, it's human nature. And you can say that you don't look at social media and all that, but you still have friends and you still have family and you still have teammates, and they're all saying
don't.
Right.
Exactly.
It's 100%, so that all matters. That all matters. And it's human nature.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's one of Notre Dame's slogans. Like, this is why you come to Notre Dame, and it's not to play New Mexico State, Toledo, Marshall, and Northern Illinois.
Correct. 100%.
Exactly. Good question. We did have a super chat down here from Kenny Moore.
Kenny Moore, thank you so much for the super chat. Appreciate you very much. What do you guys think about Ian Book back in South Bend and working out with the quarterbacks?
I think there's value to it. I don't know that I necessarily would want him teaching them technique and stuff, because every quarterback's different. But any guy that's played in that position, that's played in those big games, that's had those moments, that understands the magnitude of playing at Notre Dame, can be a valuable asset. I hope that Ian would be able to relay some of those positive moments, and also saying, hey, look, man, sometimes you can't let those things get to you. I would hope, I don't know if he does, I don't know Ian at all. I would hope that Ian, for example, looks back at that 2019 game against Virginia Tech with regret that he went like this to his own crowd. Like, you remember that when he scored that game-winning touchdown and he shushed his own crowd because they were booing him because he was playing like absolute garbage prior to that series?
He always gets a lot of credit for coming back in that game, which he should, but they should not have been in that position because he played so poorly.
Now, they had the fumble return and all, but he had 2 interceptions in Virginia Tech territory before that time. But that's part of growing up. Again, Ian was 20 years old at the time? Like, it's like, he could absolutely, like, some of the lessons that if I was fortunate enough to have a child, some of the lessons I would teach them would be like, hey, I did this and it was messed up.
Mm-hmm.
Like I wish I would have treated this girl in high school differently and been more respectful and had some of the maturity and view of the world that I have now. That's part of what parenting and mentoring should be. Dude, I don't want you to do like, let him put his hand on the burner. He'll learn. No, you tell him you did that, and then it's not good. You know what I mean? If he still does it, then he'll learn. But like, you don't just like, hold back, let him do it. It's like, no.
There's certain things you want your kids to experience,
but not 100%. Something where you're going to put your hand on a freaking burner and be scarred for life. You get what I'm saying? Right. Like, there's certain things they got to learn it on their own. But there's certain things you say, hey, man, I did this. So you don't have to go through it. My dad drove a UPS truck and a Wonder Bread truck and all this kind of thing, so he could provide a life for his kids that he didn't have. He didn't grow up dreaming to drive a UPS truck, but that's what he needed to do to provide for his family. I mean, I'm going through this so that I can then pass off my experiences to the next generation. Linemen do that all the time. Like, there's been this brotherhood of Notre Dame offensive linemen that have done that. I think if you don't think Ian Book, however you felt about him, if you don't think Ian Book can add value to just the knowledge that these young men have, the experiences that of the moments he's played on college football playoff semifinal games, he's played in ACC championship game. He's done things that no other Notre Dame quarterback has done, and I'm not talking about the 30 wins because again, but name me another Notre Dame quarterback that's had to play in a conference championship game. There's only one.
You're never going to come up with it.
You know what I mean? Like, it's him. And he's been through a lot of those ups and downs. He's been through quarterback battles and knowing what it's like to have, look, Ian and Brandon, from what I was told, were good friends. Like, that can be really hard. Like, you guys are good friends. How do you maintain that friendship when you're going through this kind of battle when one guy wins and another guy doesn't? Ian went through that in 2018. So those are all things that you look at and say, hey, if you can learn from this, then do that. So sometimes it's sharing your good experiences. Sometimes it's sharing your, hey, if I could go back and do it all over again, I wouldn't have done this. And I let this get to me. Because, I say like, well, I don't hear that stuff. Well, then why'd you give me this? So I think he can absolutely add value. Absolutely can add value to him. Because he's not coming back to Notre Dame because he doesn't like Notre Dame. He's not like a plant of Brian Kelly to come back and sabotage the quarterback room. He's always back here. He's been back here lots of times.
Oh, yeah.
He loves Notre Dame.
Right.
So there's absolute value he can bring. So I think it's pretty cool. I think it's good of the coaches to invite a player back that they don't have personal relationship with, meaning like they weren't here when he was there. I think Denbrock was here for like a year of like Ian's true freshman year. I think Denbrock was the OC on that team. It's only one. I think it's cool that they are allowing him to come back and kind of relay some of those lessons.
From Moab DI88.
It's actually it used to remember Muhammad Abdi.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, it's just a different name. He's got a different name, so that's
gotcha. Yep. So from Muhammad, do you think until Notre Dame quarterback play gets Heisman consideration, will elite receivers join the program, or will Freeman run first mentality be a hindrance for it becoming a reality? Trev, what do you think?
I don't think Notre Dame has to get Heisman level play to start getting elite receivers. I mean, Caden Finley's an elite receiver, and he's already signed, and that was with Notre Dame throwing for like 90 yards in the Sugar Bowl in the college football playoffs last year. The passing offense has to open up, and I do think that a byproduct of it opening up will draw more attention from blue chip receivers and top level receivers. But I think that this 2026 class that they have already committed is starting to show the change already, because Mike Denbrock and Mike Brown and Gino Guidugli are able to sit down and point to their current room that they haven't, like, did you see what Jaden Greathouse did against Penn State and Ohio State? Did you see what Malachi Fields did the last 2 years at Virginia? Did you see what Will Pauling did against LSU and against Alabama and all these other high-octane teams? Did you see what Jordan Faison did in the first 2 rounds of the playoffs? Look at who we have at quarterback. That's already starting to change. I don't think they have to have a quarterback finish top 3 in the Heisman race for wide receivers at the high school level to find them like, all right, they're a destination that I want to go to.
They just beat Texas for an in-state kid whose dad played at Texas, who's a big-time, in my opinion, elite wide receiver, a year after Notre Dame had one of their worst passing offenses in quite some time. So, I mean, it's like, number 1, win. Number 2, you have to show a desire to want to throw the ball better. Let's be honest. What's part of the reason that that's working for Notre Dame? Why were they able to get a guy like Caden Finley? There's the academic piece, and it's unique and all that. But also, Mike Denbrock's able to pop in some film of his 2023 offense where his quarterback did win a Heisman Trophy. To Muhammad's point, would the class look like it did if he came from an offense like Cincinnati, where they threw the ball but didn't throw the ball like they did at LSU? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, because that's not the reality we live in. But I don't think that I think this notion that Marcus Freeman has this run first mentality means that they're going to be like an old school Barry Alvarez ground and pound run game. That's not what run first means. It's, we're going to build around our ability to run the football. You can build around your ability to run the football and still throw the ball at a very high level. And I ultimately think that's what they want to get to. Like, guys, look, can we admit something? They don't bring in 5 wide receivers in this class a year after bringing in 3 receivers if their desire is to play 12 personnel all game. Like, they just wouldn't. They wouldn't have recruited 8 receivers and only 3 tight ends in a 2-year period if their desire was to go to 12 personnel all the time and just ground and pound. So I think that helps. I will say this: the longer they go without having a more effective passing game, the less Denbrock's look what we did at LSU works.
Yeah.
I will say that.
Yeah. This is a big year. I mean, this one, I would say the tenure of the next Notre Dame quarterback is big for this time period of wide receiver recruiting. Is that fair, guys? Like,
oh yeah, man. I mean, because you can only get by for so long. It's like, this is our vision for you, and it's like, okay, then when is it going to happen? Yeah,
right. Yep. It's so much easier to do it with guys that are going to also be your teammate moving forward, or have paved the way for you. You know, that kind of a deal.
Hey, coach, you're. This is what I did with Jalen. Jaden Daniels isn't working anymore. Jaden Daniels just retired after a 12-year career. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just kind of thinking that's not who you're going to be at Notre Dame. You know what I'm saying? Like, it only lasts so long.
What have I done? Have you ever heard of Will Fuller? It's like, all right.
When they're pulling out
the guy who's skid as a junior at Notre Dame. Yeah, I've heard of him. Yeah.
They're pulling out the burned CD to put in the DVD to put in. Like, this is what we need you to do. Yeah. That's not good.
Yeah, I mean, but that does work now, though. I mean, because then Brock can go back and say, look what we did our first go around in Notre Dame. We had the Will Fullers, the Miles Boykins, the Chase Claypools, these guys. But once you're going into year 4, 3, 4, 5, 6 as the OC, then eventually the proof needs to be in the pudding. But they don't need to have a quarterback throwing for 4,000 plus yards per se.
Right.
I mean, I don't think it needs to be that.
Right. Agreed.
It's a very, very good question.
From John A1, now that the quarterback position isn't a true dual threat, do you think Notre Dame should implement some wildcat in the red zone?
No. I mean, look, I think in today's era, guys, there's plenty of things you can do RPO wise, play action wise, extra hats on the line of scrimmage, make your 12 personnel, your second tight end be Kirby Lambert, in the red zone. There's plenty of things you can do. I don't think there's that need. That we don't need to try to find a way to get this roster to replicate what last year's roster did, because this year's roster looks differently. So I don't need to find my next Riley Leonard. Well, I don't have a Riley at quarterback, so let me find a Riley at running back. I don't need to do that. I mean, there's plenty of teams that run the ball effectively without a dual threat quarterback. There's plenty of teams that are really good in the red zone that don't have a dual threat quarterback. And they don't line up and do wildcat. Just be good at what you do. That's the big thing, is be good at what you do. Mm-hmm. And if you're good at what you do, I mean, who was the number 2 red zone offense in the country last year in touchdown? Top 3 teams in red zone percentage last year. I'll go top 5. Number 1 is Navy. Number 3 is Army. Number 4 is Nevada. Okay. They were 1, 3, and 4. Okay. Dual threat quarterbacks. Number 2, Indiana. Is anybody worried about what Curtis Rourke is doing in the red zone? Number 5 is Ohio State. Will Howard is a solid runner, but they weren't using him.
But he's not run first, that's for sure.
Right. They weren't using him the way that Notre Dame used Riley Leonard.
Correct.
And so just be good at what you do.
Obviously.
Right. Right. I mean, but Will Howard last year in 16 games ran for 226 yards and 7 touchdowns. Right. He averaged 2.2 yards carry.
Right.
Was he a good athlete? Yeah, but they weren't using him in that same designed run. And I can think of at least 2 or 3 touchdowns he had last year that were scrambles from a little bit of a distance back. They weren't designed quarterback runs in the red zone. So just be good at what you do and be sound at what you do. And there's a lot of different ways to be successful. I'm going to find some down here that we haven't got to. Here we go. Let's go to Nate M.
All right. Nate M. Most underrated player in each of Marcus Freeman's teams, in my opinion, Howard Cross at 22, Thomas Harper in 23, and Aeneas Williams in 24. Feel free to interpret underrated as you see fit.
I don't know that I'm going to go with Aeneas Williams as the most underrated on this year's team. There's a couple others that I would go with. And are we talking underrated nationally? Are we talking underrated amongst Notre Dame fans? Underrated as far as like unsung hero? Like, what do you guys think that we're like just thinking of? I'm taking it as like guys that need enough credit.
Yeah, I'd go that way, because if we're going national media, it's the entire roster. I mean, if we're
outside of Jeremiah Love and Leonard
Joe Alt,
right.
23, Thomas Harper in 23, that one I'm totally comfortable with. I would argue, however, that based on what I hear discussed, I'd be curious what other people felt about Cam Hart that year. Like, were we the only ones talking about how good Cam Hart was? I doubt it. Amongst Notre Dame people, I doubt it. But I think Cam Hart is criminally underrated from a national standpoint for how good he was in 2022.
Yeah.
Like, criminally underrated. 2022, I think a guy that was very underrated on that team, and we mentioned him earlier, fellas, I still think Braden Lindsey was way underrated for how important he was that year. And if he had quarterbacks who could throw the football,
yeah.
I mean, we saw what happened in the bowl game when Tyler started throwing the ball down the field, and hitting guys, which he wasn't doing. I mean, you talk about how a one play can change a game. I mean, what if Tyler Buckner hits Braden Lindsey on that post route right before halftime? He was open by like 8-9 yards.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
Sure
how
was.
different does that game look, and how much different does that season look if that happens? I mean, Braden was open all the time in 2022 and just didn't get the ball. Like the play against Navy where he makes that great catch, he was open by like 5 yards, but the ball never came. And then Drew kind of throws it late, and then he makes that great catch. But like, he'd smoked that guy off the line.
It's no wonder Braden Lindsey went to the working world with still a year of eligibility, remaining.
He's like,
I'm done with this.
Yeah, I totally get that. I wish he would have played with Sam Hartman in 2022.
Oh, me too.
Though. That would have been fun to watch.
100%. But I think he was done at that point.
Yeah, I got to go with Braden on my 22 team. I think Thomas Harper for Notre Dame, amongst Notre Dame fans, is pretty underrated, even more so than Howard Cross in 2022. But I think nationally, I think Cam Hart was – the fact that Cam Hart didn't make any All-American teams in 2023 is still a crime to me.
Yeah.
He was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. What about last year's team?
The first one that popped to mind was Donovan Heinisch.
That's a good one.
Because of what he was kind of thrust into action and held his own. And nobody
maker.
100%. He had a sack, in the Georgia game.
He clinched that game with a twist sack. Yeah,
100%.
Right.
And I just think nobody talks about Donovan Heinisch. Nobody. Yeah. So I think he's underrated. He
didn't start playing like a prominent role till the Florida State game, and he had 2 sacks. He had 2 tackles for loss that game. He had a tackle for loss against Virginia. He had the sack against Georgia. Yeah, he was a very important part of what they do. That's a good one. Trev, you have any thoughts on potentially underrated players from last season?
Yeah, last year mine's Junior Tui Alamaka. Okay. There's been so much talk about, like, after a lot of the edge players started getting hurt, it was, but could you imagine if they still had Boubacar, and which is fair. I mean, I also was a part of that conversation, but I mean, we're talking about a kid who didn't take a single defensive snap for the first 2 games, played his role on the team, came in, and then ended the season second on the team in total pressures.
I'll give you mine. I have 2 guys. 2 defensive players are actually mine now that I think about it. I have 2 defensive players. I don't think Jaden Osbury and Josh Burnham get enough credit for being really good players last year. They tied for second on the team in tackles for loss, yet they were 10th and 11th on the team in snaps. And Josh was 10th on the team in snaps, and he was 72 behind the next guy. And he was 100 behind number 8. And he finished tied for second on the team in tackles for loss. And if you look at Josh's production last year, he only had 2 sacks. So a lot of those tackles for loss was run game production, which overall was a problem area for them. So I'd go with him. And then I still think Jaden Osbury was criminally underrated last season for how good he was on that team. So those would be my 2. Those would be my 2.
Another one on defense that could be talked about too is Rod Hurd. We've talked about Rod Hurd a lot, but he's somebody that came and transferred in with the expectation to start. And then at the end of basically really going into fall camp, is kind of like you knew what the pecking order was.
Mm-hmm.
But whenever his number was called, he came in and made impact plays. I mean, had a sack in the Penn State game. He had a big pass breakup against Georgia, forced fumble against Virginia. I mean, that's –
yeah, he had the forced fumble against Virginia. He had the sack of Drew Aller in the semifinal game. He had the 4th down pass breakup, like you pointed to. Like, he had some big plays throughout the season. Yeah, he's a very important piece of it. Sure, it's a good one.
From Coleman Smith, is this year the first year where tight end is a major question mark? A lot of guys are injury prone, and guys that have never played at Notre Dame.
The guys that have never played at Notre Dame, I don't care as much about. The injury thing is the only thing that makes tight end a question mark. The whole lack of production thing, I don't care about. I've pointed this out. Troy Nicholas had 5 catches the year before and the year before that, I think he was playing linebacker. Remember, 2011, Troy Nicholas was playing outside linebacker. 2012, he moves to be a blocking tight end, catches 5 passes. 2013, he builds himself to a second-round NFL draft pick. There's a reason why these guys haven't played. Eli Raridon didn't play because he had some injuries, and then he was behind Mitchell Evans. But I think he's going to be a dude. Coleman, you should check out the intel piece I put on the board. But the injury thing is the only question mark I have. I'm not worried about the overall talent. I think it's at least going to be good.
Mm-hmm.
Will it be great? Depends on if Eli's healthy.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I think there's an argument to be made that I think last year's tight end room was more of a question mark than this year's. I mean, your slotted number 1 tight end was freshly off of an injury. We were talking about Eli Raridon's injury history from like multiple seasons ago. You know, Kevin Bauman, that was he wasn't even available for the first game because he was still coming back from something. And then in his season debut against Purdue, he caught a touchdown. But then your depth at tight end last year was Eli Raridon, a season removed from his injuries. And then your depth was, Cooper Flanagan. He was an exciting sophomore. You didn't know what you were going to get from him. And then Jack Larson was a true freshman. Mm-hmm. Whereas this season, it's Jack Larson's going into his sophomore year. You get an experienced guy in Ty Washington. Eli Raridon and Kevin Bauman are both now multiple seasons removed from their injuries. We've watched them go through healthy offseasons. So I get where the pause comes from, Coleman, but I think there's an argument to be made that going into 2024, the tight end room was more of a question mark than it is now.
Yep, agree.
I will echo Brian's sentiment. Get on the board, read about the tight ends. You'll feel
I thought that was
better.
Some pretty good intel.
It was great. You'll feel much better about the tight
normally I do all of it at once.
Right.
Because I take all the data, all the people I talked to, I put into one. But I got done writing the receiver one, and I was like, dude, this is a lot. So
I like you kind of.
Yesterday I was going to do O-line, running back. I only got really one nugget on running back, and then a bunch of O-line stuff. And then I got done with the O-line. I was like, dude, this is a lot. So I was like, I'm just going to put these up. I'm going to space them out and that type of thing, so people can can digest more.
Gives me
and not overlook
excitement
more,
about each day of checking stuff out. So I love it. Love it.
Yep. So it's good stuff. The O-line stuff was very interesting. That'll come out. That'll come out tonight.
Such a tease.
I know.
From John A1 on a show earlier this week, IB reminded us that last year there were no true dominant teams. How far is Notre Dame talent-wise from having the potential to be one of those dominant teams?
Not very. Brian Smith and I were talking yesterday about this. He called me yesterday, and we were chatting a little bit, and it's like consistency recruiting receiver at the level they just did and better, and then consistency if they can consistently recruit the D-line like Al Washington's doing right now. If they can do that, then I think this team can become that. They're recruiting elite quarterbacks. They're recruiting as running back as well as any team in the country. They're recruiting the secondary as well as any team in the country. They're recruiting linebacker as well as any team in the country. They're recruiting the offensive line as well as any team in the country. And they're recruiting tight end, in my opinion, as well as any team in the country since Mike Denbrock came back. There was a couple-year stretch where it was like, but Mike Denbrock signed James Flanagan, Ian Premer, and Preston Frizzell. That's pretty flipping good, and it's can you develop quarterbacks at an elite level? Can you recruit receiver at a consistently high level, where you give me a Caden Finley every year and a Bubba Frazier every year, and then every couple of years give me an elite, like an elite guy every 2-3 years. Yeah, that's where it is. So I'd say D-line and receiver continuing what they're doing now, building that. And then part of that is okay, now Mike Brown's got to close on Julius Jones Jr. You got to close on Quentin Burrell in the 27 class. Same thing with Al Washington. It's dude, you did a great job so far in 2026. Got to close that class out, get Elijah Golden or, another good DT, but then do the same thing next year because it's about stacking those classes up. Notre Dame is not far at all from having that type of team. And they also have to be able to have the retention that they've had so far the last couple of years, where they're not losing stud players to big deals to other schools like some guys are doing. That helped Ohio State a ton. I promise you there were Ohio State players that had bigger deals to go somewhere else, not just the NFL. And they didn't because they had something they wanted to accomplish. And That's what I said. I think Ohio State's title team last year was more player driven than it was coach driven. Like Vince, or Trev, was it Trev, Vince, who made the point yesterday? But like where he leaned into more letting Chip Kelly kind of play Chip Kelly. Who's that? Was that you, Trev? Trev's like, that was me. That was my great idea. That was my great point. Yeah. Don't give Vince credit for that. He was probably falling asleep at the time. So but it was a great point. Whoever made it, it was a great point. I only hire the best. But it was a great point, and it's just about doing that consistently is going to be the key. But like you've got player retention is a big part of that as well.
What's going to be funny about, and I can't speak for these two, but I know for me specifically, when Notre Dame is that dominant team, I'm not going to know it until I see it.
Mm-hmm.
Like we go into every season, like there's no 2018 Clemson and no 2019 LSU or 2020 Bama. And I'm not going to know if that's going to be, maybe in years from now, it would be like, there's no 2025 or 2026 Notre Dame in this landscape of college football, but I'm not going to know it until it happens. Going into the 2019 season, I think you can look at LSU's roster. Going into the 2018 season, you can look at Clemson's roster, be like, yeah, that's probably going to be the team to beat. I don't know if I'm going to feel that way about a Notre Dame roster until I watch them kind of go through the season. And at the end of it, when we're sitting in December, getting ready to go into postseason, it's like, yeah, Notre Dame was kind of that team. They were the dominant team, and that's interesting.
I think their roster has the chance to be that this year. I think Notre Dame has the roster to be much better than they were a year ago. There's just a lot of questions of we've got to see the quarterback play at that level. We got to see the receivers play at that level. We got to see this defensive lineman play at that level. They're very close. The D-line is a place where I have a question mark. Do you have enough elite talent on the D-line that are at a place of development and or health to do that? And if not, is your offense elite enough to win with that? Because, like, let's be honest, LSU in 19 did not have an elite championship caliber defense. They didn't need one. They just needed to be good on defense. In that one game where your offense wasn't scoring a lot, Auburn, you had to make some stops to help win the game. All right, once. But overall, it's can your offense be that good to make up for it? And
yeah,
that's that's going to be kind of where they need to be.
Mm-hmm.
Good question.
Wayne Miller, how tiring is it to constantly have Coach Marcus Freeman's Notre Dame team compared to Notre Dame teams of the last 20 years?
Up until this past season, I understood it. And I even still kind of understand it now. Look, like Trev, you've talked a lot about this. Another great point made by someone else, man. I must be slacking. Man, what's going on, Brian? But Trev pointed out, like, Notre Dame has never followed up a great year with another great year. Even 2019, when they went 11-2, that was a very underwhelming 11-2 season.
Yeah.
They went 1-2 against ranked opponents, and their only win over a ranked opponent was Navy at home. And their bowl game win was over like a 7-5 Iowa State team. It was a very underwhelming season. You blew out bad teams. And like Ian Book threw 34 touchdowns. I think like 19 of them were like 5 games against teams that were terrible with a losing record. It's just like you beat up on a bunch of bad kids. You were kind of a bully, but when you playing a team on your level, you got kind of smacked a little bit, and it was a very disappointing season. They've never followed up. So until Marcus Freeman follows up a great year with another great year, it's understandable why there's still some that are like, I need to see him do it more than once. Hey, Notre Dame was 12-0 in 2012. They were 12-0 in 2018. They were 10-2 in 2015. And it's not like this was the first playoff berth Notre Dame's had. This is their third. And each year they followed it up with a disappointing season. So to a degree, I mean, if we're being objective, we love Marcus Freeman, love what he's doing, but he's got to still show this season that he can build on what they did last year. Not like, okay, let's have that fun year and we'll see again. And this was Notre Dame's third playoff appearance and fourth championship opportunity since 2010, because there's the BCS in 2012 and the playoff in 18, playoff in 20, playoff in 24. Can you have that consistency like you see from Ohio State, like you see from Alabama, like you've seen in recent years from Georgia, where even your down teams are like 11-2 SEC champs? Like that's what he has to show that he can do. And so it doesn't actually, I don't get tired of it to the degree of you got to show me something. Where I get tired of it is when there's assumptions about the roster's talent that are lazy and based off of past years. Well, I don't know that Malachi Fields is going to be any good because Bo Collins wasn't great. That's a completely irrelevant thing to discuss. Like, that makes no sense to me. Like, no sense. And it's like, judge this team's talent on what this team's talent is. But it's also okay to say, like, this is a talented roster. Very talented roster. Now let's see if Marcus Freeman can harness it and lead him to success. Because you know who else was really talented? The 2019 roster. And they underachieved. And so that's fair. I think it's fair to, I need to see Marcus Freeman prove they can win at Miami, because Lou never did. Brian Kelly never did.
Yeah.
Notre Dame hasn't won at Miami since the 70s.
1977.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Need to see him do it at Miami,
Against
replicate
Miami.
the season.
Yeah. Against
Miami.
Miami.
And Wayne said, I was thinking about the talented players on the team when I wrote that. That part, Wayne, agree completely. That part of it is like, oh, they don't have the speed. That's tiresome. They don't have the same level of athleticism of other teams. That's tiresome. That part, Wayne, we are 100% agreement on. But so if we're looking at it from a makeup of the roster, a lot of lazy takes that are tiresome.
Yeah.
If we're talking about, is Notre Dame really that like a lot of Notre Dame fans I've heard, oh, they're a tier 1 team now. No, they're not. Just getting to the so then you're also got to tell me that Washington is and TCU is, because those are teams that have made it to the championship game in the 3 previous years. Think about it: TCU in 2022, Washington in 2023, Notre Dame in 2024. Getting to the title game once and losing by double digits does not mean you're a tier 1 team now. You've got to get back there multiple times or win one to be there. But if we're talking about the talent yes, Wayne, you're spot on. That is very tiresome. And I think Trevor and I for sure have let that be known in our opinions this summer in different shows. That's absolutely agree with that one.
Yeah.
Sean Stewart, what linebacker rotations would you like to see in the 25 season? It's a great question.
Answer it first, Vince.
Well,
I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah. So what I would like to see is primarily I would like to see Bowen and KVA as the 2 linebackers. And then, you can obviously bring in, the other guys for situational, purposes. You could bring them in for a series, like they normally do, like bring them in for a series or 2, depending, give guys rest. But I want my primary inside linebackers to be those 2. That's what I would like to see. But the fascinating part is right now they're both listed as the same position. You know what I mean? And so are they willing to I think they are, but are they willing to branch out, learn both positions, that kind of thing? And I say they, I mean the coaching staff, not the kids. Are they willing to do that? Do they want to get those 2 guys on the field at the same time? I'm interested to see how that all shakes out in the fall. Those are the 2 best linebackers on the team on the inside. I want them both out there at the same time.
What about the rotation after that?
I want Jalen Snead in on, obvious passing downs. I want him to be rushing the quarterback, so that's his package, whatever that looks like. That could be multiple packages, but that's when I want him in. I want him getting after the quarterback. I don't want him reading and reacting. I want him like see ball, get ball, go kind of a deal. That's what I want, Jalen Snead. You got somehow, and I don't know the answer to this, but somehow you've got to get Jaden Osbury on the field. It's unfortunate that they don't use the rover the way they used to, especially when he was recruited. He was recruited to be your prototypical rover.
Early on,
and they just don't use that the way that they did in the past. He's dynamic. You need to get him on the field. I don't know what that looks like. That's the thing within the scheme of their defense. You need to find a way to get him on the field.
Yeah, I want the rotations to reflect who their opponents are each week.
Mm-hmm.
You have a diverse skill set in the room where you have multiple different linebackers with multiple different things that they're strong suited for. And I think that Max Bulla and Chris Ash are in a spot where they can dictate what the rotation is and what the starting lineup is based on who they're playing. You play a diverse set of offenses this year, and some with different strengths. You know, I think that who your linebacker rotation is against a Navy or a Texas A&M team that are, you know, big up front and has a stable of running backs and a very mobile quarterback may look different than your starting linebacker rotation when you play USC or when you play a Pitt or a Boston College. And so I just want the linebacker rotation to reflect who they have on their schedule that week, because you have guys that are comfortable enough now in that room that they're playing in, and they have a good enough chemistry with each other that it doesn't have to be these are our two guys and we'll put Snead in on third down or KVA on third down or rush Preston Zinner on third down. And, you know, Osbury does the best kind of rotating in and being that change of pace type of linebacker. It's, you have enough skill set now, enough experience across the board that you can utilize them in different ways.
Love it. Vince, I'm with you. I think in a perfect world, if everybody's playing to their potential, your starting linebackers are Drake Bowen at Mike and Kingston at Will. I would like to see Kingston not play as much as the pure Will as Jack Kaiser did last year, because I'd also like to see Kingston play some as the number 2 Mike behind Drake, because I think using him at both. So Drake dominates the Mike reps maybe a little bit more than he did last year, but Kingston still is the backup there. Kingston gets his reps at Will, so Kingston can still play like the same number of reps that Jack Kaiser played, but not all of them at Will,
two positions,
the way that Jack did. Right. So then that opens up some more Will opportunities for Jaden, because like you said, you have to play him. And there's going to be some games where they play 3 linebackers. They play 3 linebackers against Navy. There's some other teams that run the ball well. There may be some 12 personnel looks where you want to match them with 3 linebackers, because if they want to split out a tight end, you could put Jaden Osbury out there and cover tight end. So I think there's some things they can do matchup-wise in that regard as well, where you can use 3 linebackers. There may be some times you're like, hey, we want to get against a team that's spreading the field a little bit. We want to go 3-3-5, and we've got really athletic linebackers can shoot and blitz and do all those type of things, and you want to use them in that regard. I think there's a lot more things you can do where you have 3 linebackers in the field with a Jalen Snead or a Jaden Osbury on the field at that time, or even Kingston as your pass rusher, and where, you know, Jaden Osbury and Drake are maybe your inside guys, and you've got Kingston rushing the quarterback. So there's a lot of different things that you can do with this group, but I still think your best 2 inside linebackers are Drake and Kingston. I still believe that to be true. Yeah. Good question, Sean. Good answers, fellas.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I think we're all going to be paying really close attention to, as to what that kind of looks like when we have a chance to see it. You know, what do you do with this really talented room of linebackers? You know?
Yep.
From Muhammad Abdi, Brian, based on your experience in coaching, which is the harder step up in coaching position, coach from the defensive side to DC or position coach from the offensive side to OC?
Neither. I think there are challenges to certain positions on either side of the ball to go from a specific position coach to a coordinator than just offense or defense. I think if you're a master of what you do as a position coach on defense, then you can step into a role as a coordinator. If you're that way on offense, you can. I do, however, think that there's a reason why most offensive coordinators are guys that have either coached O-line or quarterbacks. Even Mike Denbrock, who has spent most of the last 15, 20 years coaching like tight ends and wide receivers, is a little bit different, because Mike Denbrock used to be an offensive line coach. And so he's kind of done that as he's become more of that
he's
position.
Also been a wide receiver coach too.
Right. Well, my point is he started like his first D1 job was Stanford. He was the tackles tight ends coach. And then he went to Notre Dame and was the tackles tight ends coach for 3 years. Then he went to Washington and was their offensive line coach for 4 years. Then he became more of a receivers and all that, meaning he's got that background coaching the line. So he's literally coached everything, but quarterbacks at the Division I level. But then he coached quarterbacks when he was Brian Kelly's offensive coordinator at Grand Valley State back in the 90s. So like he's got that experience coaching everywhere, where sometimes a quarterback's coach can struggle making the transition because he doesn't think enough about incorporating the offensive line into it. Sometimes an offensive line coach may not be a great coordinator because he doesn't have enough experience with designing play calls and pass plays and things like that. That's why you need a good staff. But I think there's a reason why more often than not, your offensive coordinators are either former quarterbacks or former linemen. I feel like the same way about baseball. I've always felt like not always, but more often than not, like catchers tend to make better coaches and better managers because catchers are the ones that have to really think about the entire game. They're the ones lining up the left fielders and the this and the that because they're calling the game. Most catchers are smart. Not all. Sorry, Vince. I just said because I saw you like, I played catcher. Sometimes it's the shortstops that were the smart ones, but
the catchers are the ones that are the smartest and the worst knees. That's how that works.
But the point is, when you played catcher, even at the high school level, you weren't just me and the pitcher. You had to make sure that the shortstop, hey, I know I'm pitching this guy inside on this next one. I'm calling this game, so I got to move you over. Or we're going to, I know the scouting report, so I know how to pitch a guy. I know where this guy likes to hit. Yep. I need to make sure that we're shifted over. I mean, you see catchers all the time standing in front of the plate in between, like, what do you think they're doing? They're telling everybody where to line up.
Yep. My coach would tell me, you're the only position on the field where you can see everybody.
How many managers in the Major League Baseball right now are former pitchers?
Not many.
Like most of my life, I don't remember many managers that were former pitchers. It's a different deal. So I think that's true. So I think it can be a challenge sometimes for a guy who only coaches corners to then go to be a coordinator. I think that's something that's hurt Mike Mickens. That's why I think Mike Mickens now being in charge of the entire secondary is something that should help him to eventually become a coordinator
and being the pass game coordinator. All of those different things.
Right.
Yeah.
Now that doesn't mean that you can't. Last I checked, the New York Jets hired a former cornerback to be their head football coach, and he was a pretty successful defensive coordinator with the Detroit Lions, and that's Aaron Glenn, who played corner. So it's not always true, but you don't see a lot of coordinators that have been running back coaches their entire lives because at running, there's a lot you don't have to think about as a running backs coach, so you don't have the experience coaching the whole thing. So I think there can be some challenges for guys who only coach certain positions to make that I'm in charge of everyone role. I think that's more of the challenge than just, it's easier to be an OC from a position coach or easier to be a DC from a position coach. If you're a master of your position, then I think you're a master of that position. I will say this may not be real popular amongst some of my offensive coaching brethren. I think it's easier to go from being a defensive coach to an offensive coach than the other way around.
That makes sense. I see that.
Yeah. So scheme-wise is like a coordinator type of thing. So good question, Mohammed.
Ball Peen Shillelagh. Is it reasonable to still expect a top 10 defense this first year under Chris Ash? How common are defenses, some or better, in the first year of a new coordinator?
Well, it depends on what you're walking into. I mean, if I'm asking Mike Elko to come in and build a top 10 defense after he's got a deprogram from what Brian Van Gorder's done for 3 years, that's going to be a lot harder. But even then, you saw a big jump in success. I don't expect Chris Ash to come in and make Notre Dame better necessarily on defense as a whole. That could be tough. The expectation is improve areas that need improvement and then don't take a step back in other areas, or at least not a big step back in other areas. I think that's more reasonable. But top 10 for sure. I mean, look, last year, if you look at, and again, I guess part of it is like, what are we talking about when we say top 10? Are we talking about like just scoring defense? Are we talking about total defense? We're talking about efficiency. Well, Notre Dame last year was 4th in the country in scoring on defense, and they were 11th in yards on defense. If you take out playoff games, it's a little bit different. But if you look at their efficiency numbers, they were number 1 in the country last year in defense, according to the Fromo Efficiency Index rating. Number 1. I don't care, and you've got a lot of talent coming back. If you can't still have a top 10 defense, that's a big problem. When you look at the talent that Notre Dame has coming back, if you can't still have a top 10 defense in the country after being number 1 last year, we are going to have some issues. And the FEI had Notre Dame number 1. The Football Power Index at ESPN had him number 2. You should still be top 10. Yes. It's not only reasonable, it should be demanded. You should demand to still have a top 10 defense. In efficiency, maybe they don't stop it. Because I put an article, I'm going to put something out here. I haven't done it yet. I did one for the offense, but I think they face a lot better offenses next year than they did last year, including the postseason. They didn't face any gauntlet offenses. Even Ohio State, they didn't start becoming that type of offense until the playoffs. They weren't. I think Notre Dame scored more points per game last year than Ohio State did on the whole. Notre Dame was 10th in scoring last year at 36.1. Ohio State was 12th at 35.7. Like, they looked that way for a couple games in the playoffs, but they weren't like dominant all year, and they only scored 21 offensive points against Texas. They played better offenses this year. So the numbers could look a little bit worse, but the overall efficiency, and because the efficiency numbers look at your success relative to who you play. So it's like if you play Navy, who's averaging 350 rushing yards a game, and you hold them to 230, if you just look at my ranking, well, that's not good. That might have us as the worst defense in college football. We give up 230 yards rushing. But in context, it was a phenomenal performance because you held that team under 120 yards under their season average. You know what I mean? So that's why I kind of like the efficiency numbers as another tool to look at on top of the raw, along with the raw numbers. So I don't know. You guys tell me, are any of you going to want to make a case for acceptance of Notre Dame not being a top 10 defense this year, barring the most dramatic amount of injuries we've ever seen, and like 8 starters go down to seasoning injuries by the end of game 4? Like, that's it for me.
No, I think the minimum expectation is you sustain. In certain areas, like, do I expect Notre Dame's defense to be number 1 in completion percentage allowed? No, I don't think that should be the expectation. But to sustain a top 10 defense, I think that's the bare minimum in year 1 because of the talent. So, yeah, I think it's reasonable to expect a top 10 defense this year.
Carlos Garza, how long do you think the NCAA will be involved with college football? This is a loaded question right here.
Why don't you go ahead and start off on answering it?
I mean, look, I think right now I have come to the side of where I think that football should break away and do their own thing, and then allow the NCAA to be in charge of everything else so that they can go back to regional conferences. Conferences got out of control because of football. And if you remove football from the equation, I think hopefully, cooler heads will prevail and you can get back to normal conferences, and then football just does their thing. It's ballooned to the fact that now football is professional at this point, and just let them do their thing. And I think that I just feel I don't like the way the new conferences and the realignment and all of these different things have affected every other sport that's not football. You know what I mean? And so I want that to go back, and football can keep evolving and doing their thing, and they just need to be in charge of themselves. When that happens, I don't know, but it feels like things change quickly, to be honest with you. It could happen in the next 10 years, maybe. Wow.
I'm of the belief that I don't know that the NCAA can ever have enough credibility moving forward to truly govern college sports. They have proven to be too corrupt, too greedy, and too incompetent all at the same time. And I think to a degree, it needs to get blown up. And as part of that restructuring, Vince, I think we agree that one of two things needs to happen. College football needs to be removed from whatever college oversight there is and needs to be its own entity. And you can still have conferences that are for football if you want. But you go back to the other conferences for other things. Hey, you don't have to be in a conference for another sport. That is to have that play out is going to be very difficult and some moving, but it can be done. And I also think football should be removed from Title IX consideration when that happens, because there is just no women's sport that mirrors, and to a degree it already is, but I mean completely removed from any legal decisions that revolve around revenue, and it's just a completely different monster. I don't know how that process works, but I think that should be done. I think in the other option, and I'll go back to saying this, is you can create a new entity that oversees all of college athletics with a lot of changes. It's not regurgitating a new version of the NCAA, but an institution that truly gets back to looking out for young people and the sports as a whole, which means sometimes maybe this isn't best for the student athletes, but this is best for the sport. Not every decision that's best for the student athletes is best for the sport. And that has to be weighed, because if the sport dies, then there are no more opportunities for student athletes. Like, we can go back to everybody being like D3 schools if you want and start paying your own way. And I mean, if you want to do that, but the point being, the one way to fix that and fix all of this, as I've said before, and I don't know the legal way to make this happen. But it can happen, is where the money all once again gets pooled and split up between the major conferences. So you have whatever TV money they want to pay to host the G5 leagues goes into a pool for all those teams, and they all make the same amount. Then you have a pool of what these networks are wanting to pay for the SEC, the Big Ten, whatever. And you can say, hey, look, we just want one game a week. We want all these games, whatever. Whatever ESPN is paying to host the SEC, they can pay if they want that conference, just like Fox and CBS and NBC have been doing for NFL. I've said this before. But all the money goes into a pool, and then all the Power 5 teams get that same split of revenue. Because the minute that TV revenue for one conference doesn't have a greater benefit for someone in another conference, there's no more need to have the conferences the way they are for football. There's no need to have USC and Oregon and Washington in the Big Ten if they can stay in the Pac-12 and be making the same amount of money. There's no need. Agreed. That's easy to say and hard to act out, but it is possible. Yeah. But in order to do that, you do have to split G5 and Power 5. You do. And I think if you actually, I think it would turn into the Power 7, because I think what you might see is they go back to the old conferences where the ACC goes back to 8, 9, 10 teams. The Big Ten goes back to 10 teams. The Big East would look way different, because I think in that instance, you might see Penn State and Miami go to the Big East. You'd see the Southwest Conference come back. You might see the Big 8 come back. You'd see the Pac-10 come back instead of the Pac-12 or 14. There's different ways to kind of look at this and say, hey, like, let's figure this out and make this happen and go back to the way that it is. Now, Vince, if that gets fixed, now you can have that governing body that's overlooking the NCAA. I would also say that there needs to be things that look into that governing body shouldn't be running college sports the way that it has, where they have to care as much about revenue as they do. These conferences agree to give the governing body X amount of dollars for this purpose, and it's to oversee all the Olympic sports. But I think basketball and football need to have a governing body that looks at more over those schools, because those tend to be the biggest. Now, are there gymnastics programs at certain places or hockey teams or wrestling teams that generate revenue at certain schools? Sure. But by and large, those sports don't generate revenue the way that football and college basketball do. And I think there needs to be a governing body that oversees that's separate from the one that oversees college athletics, because we need to get back to the mission of your number one responsibility is making sure that you're educating and developing young people and making sure that they're not being taken advantage of by these institutions. How that works, I don't know, but there needs to get back to being that. And that's what the NCAA was meant to be. The minute TV money got into this equation, it changed the game. It changed the game completely. And yeah, that's my long rant on that one. But NCAA, I think, is nearing its end. It's like Krypton. It ain't gone yet, but it's about to blow up, and it's going to blow up from the inside. That's the Man of Steel reference. But
it's gotten
your greed and lack. Exactly.
Agreed.
You brought this on yourself. I have no sympathy
Yeah.
for the NCAA. Now, are there court cases that are just stupid and just now it's more anti-NCAA? Like the NCAA is a terrible organization, in my opinion, but they're not always wrong.
Right.
They shouldn't win every case. But now it's like well, we want to be the cool person. I want to side with the players because that's the hip thing. But yeah, but they don't have a case in this instance.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so yeah, oh sure, if they want to stay for 7 years in college, they should be able to do that. That's stupid.
Exactly.
Like there's certain things the NCAA should not be losing in court, but that doesn't take away that overall it's a crap entity that's basically committed institutional suicide by its own actions over the last
Correct.
50 years.
Yes. They have given themselves no teeth when
Right.
it comes to certain things because of what they let slide and what they allowed and just the wild, wild west of NIL. And look, NIL was the right answer, but the way that it was implemented was awful. I mean, I think we can all agree on that. You know what I mean? Like, yes, the players should get a cut. I agree with that. And I've come around to that. They should absolutely get a cut in plus free tuition, because of the money that they are generating. But the way that it went down, the way that it was implemented, and the way that it was, the rules behind it or lack thereof was just, it was embarrassing is what it was. I could have put together a committee of me and 4 friends and we could have figured out a better way to go about it than what the NCAA was doing, and those guys, they're packed full of lawyers and professionals, so it's just, they've done this to themselves. They've absolutely done this to themselves. And taking 7 years for an investigation into like cheating, like it's just, you've done this to yourself.
Like the thing in North Carolina where it was verifiable that they had fake classes for athletes. You could do nothing about it because you really never had any teeth.
Right.
Because and the thing is, these schools are the ones that give them the power. But then when their own decisions force them to get in trouble, then they sue. And then it's like, well, you guys said you wanted this.
Right. Exactly.
So it comes down to, you guys should have seen this coming the minute you signed those multi-million-dollar TV deals. And then once they became billion-dollar deals, did you really think you were going to be able to go for the rest of time and not in any way, shape, form, or fashion cut the players into this? Vince, it's only been within the last 10 years that conferences forced their teams to give full cost of tuition as part of their scholarship. Within the last decade, there were schools, I believe 10, 15 years, there were schools that players still had to pay out of pocket to cover their full cost of tuition.
Really?
And then you wonder why it eventually got to this. You brought this on yourself.
Right.
I have no sympathy for the NCAA, but that doesn't mean that the other side automatically.
Correct.
We in our society, we automatically say good and bad, and sometimes there is good and bad, but sometimes it's bad and bad. And just because you hate this side doesn't mean you all of a sudden think that everything this side is doing is right.
Right.
And that's where we are right now in college football. It's this side sucks, the NCAA sucks, and so do the lawyers that are using the players to get their own piece of the pie. Yep. That's all they care about. Did you see the legal fees that those law firms got for the house settlement thing?
Oh, I can only imagine.
Hundreds of millions of dollars.
It's just ridiculous. They're just in the back printing money.
Is every lawyer that way? Of course not.
No.
Of course not. But there's too many. Just like, is everyone that works in the NCAA a greedy you-know-what? No.
Or an idiot that doesn't know what they're doing. Right.
But there's too much of it that it bleeds into it.
Yeah.
And that's an issue. Speaking of, let's get down to this one. I've been wanting to talk about this one for a while.
All right, A. Reagan, thoughts on the Memphis DB leaking the playbook? I did not hear about this. Holy cow.
Did you guys see this?
No.
So a DB, I guess he was I don't know if he was suspended. I don't know why he was doing this. I don't think he was playing. He transferred to Purdue this offseason, and they just removed him from the roster. Like, before this happened, he was on their roster. Now you can't find his page on the Purdue roster. But he was leaking their play calls, their signals, all of it.
He
Purdue?
Talked about he transferred from Memphis.
He was doing it to UTSA's quarterback, Owen McCown. And leaking it to the player of the team that they were playing that week. He talked about, hey, this guy's injured. It was bad. Like, and it's, I saw the DM, like if that's legit, and they said it's verified that it's legit, but he was leaking it to the quarterback for the team that they were going to play that weekend.
Wow.
And then UTSA won by 8, and it kept Memphis from having a shot to win their league.
I was going to say, they were in the conversation midway through the season for that group of 5 spot. I remember that.
Yeah. It was bad, dude. It was really bad. Like, wow, that's And I'm curious what's going to happen with that kid too. So like, I don't know the ramifications of it, like why he did it, like he was upset or disgruntled. I don't know, but it's bad, man.
That's wild.
It's really bad.
Well,
really
knowing how swiftly and justly and quickly the NCAA works, we're going to find out by 2029 what's going to happen.
No, come on, Trev, be realistic. His son's going to get declared ineligible when he becomes a college football player. Is what's going to happen.
Yep.
So,
Yep. They're, even though he's already been kicked off the team, they're going to ban him from Memphis for 4 years.
Yeah. Oh, somebody just said this, and I don't know if it's true.
Oh, no.
Did you see that?
I'm reading it right now.
Like, if that's true, that is so bad.
Oh,
like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. I don't want to spread it.
So so he was kicked off the team. Like, he wasn't going to play that weekend.
Okay,
but he was still at least around the team enough to have the information, or maybe got it from a teammate. But yeah, he like you're a first class POS if you're doing that. And here's the other thing. What about the other kid that accepted it?
Right. And
like you're kind of a you know what too. Like you know, like I don't want that mess, man. Like, yeah, it's
there's a lot of wrong there.
Oh yeah. Remember that weird saying about both sides are bad, you know, like, yeah.
A lot of wrong.
Let's just stay in this lane of people doing dumb things or saying dumb things. We got a couple of these coming up. We're just going to go there.
USMA 87. Do you see the Boo Carter situation at Tennessee as a possible test case? Player sitting out summer program and now threatening to leave before the season with the intention of playing for another team. I didn't think you could play for another team at this point.
Well, so what some of these guys are doing is they're withdrawing from school.
Okay.
Not entering the portal, and then going to another school and walking on. Yeah.
Quote unquote.
The old loophole.
And there is a loophole for that. And then, of course, your NIL money is what pays for your tuition.
Yeah, right.
And so that's where you are. Now, this is a weird situation. He's got a new agent, although his current agent's like, I don't know that I've been fired, but they are talking about this. But the kid and his mom aren't returning my calls. So from what I've been able to gather, he was a stud freshman for them last year. And he's not attending team events, workouts, stuff like that. So the players on the team went to him and called him out on it. And then they got into a big brouhaha. So the kid's mad.
Brouhaha.
Yes. And apparently Josh Heupel's like, the player committee is going to decide what to do with this kid. And so it's like he's threatening to not come to workouts and go somewhere else. But it's like, it's not. Apparently, it's not an NIL thing. He's not holding out. Apparently, now he might have been not going to things because he was holding out, but the issue now is that his teammates pretty much called him out on not going to stuff, and he didn't like it. And so he's kind of acting like a punk, which means, and he'll transfer somewhere and some school will take him. But this is the whole problem. Why would you want that kid in your locker room?
Exactly.
But the problem is some coach will take him.
That's absolutely accurate. Some coach will take him.
Some Power 5 school will take him.
100%.
Normally, in the back in the day, a kid like this would have to transfer to like Jack State or something like that, But now it's like Deion Sanders will take him at Colorado, or
Tennessee.
Hugh Freeze will take him at Auburn, or
Well,
I don't know if you can do that. They have rules in the SEC from SEC, but like Kurt Cignetti will take him at Indiana. Like somebody's going to take him, and
absolutely. But Tennessee's already set the precedent that they're not going to put up with that crap. They're
well, yeah.
At least like nationally and publicly,
right?
You know what I mean? Like they're gonna.
Well, he needed to because he was allowing this stuff to happen for so long that the locker room was becoming a mess. So now this is Josh Heupel having to clean up his own mess.
Okay, fair enough.
And the players at Tennessee kind of doing it for him.
Good. Yeah, thank goodness.
I agree.
Like, thank goodness is what I say to that. Like the players are the ones in the right on this one because I would be backing the players 1,000%. And this is an easy one for coach. You know how when you're a coach and there's just easy ones that you can do, easy things that you can do that they're put in your lap for you.
Yep.
And it affects the culture in a positive way, for your program. Doesn't hurt you. I mean, it could hurt them on the field, obviously, but like it doesn't hurt you really. And it just goes so far in a positive way for your program. This is one of those moments. I have seen too many times where coaches have these opportunities and they just don't take advantage of it. And it ends up hurting their program more often than not. This is a gift wrap on a silver platter, whatever analogy you want to use for Josh Heupel. dude, take this opportunity. Take it because it's right there for you. Say, hey, thanks for everything. You're not going to be part of our program right now because you can't follow the very simple things that we are asking you to do. Bye.
Yep. Agree completely. And at some point in time, this is like your parents got to step involved and be like, dude, what are you doing?
Sure.
Like, but sadly, that doesn't happen nearly as much as you need it to.
Yeah. Domer Grizz, a report came out that Justin Fields was carted off the field, tore his Achilles, out for the season. Turns out he dislocated a toe and will be back by week 1. How do we change this media culture? That's not going to change.
I'll say this. I never saw a report that confirmed he tore his Achilles. He was carted off the field. It was fear that could have been one of the long lists of injuries that he suffered. It's the NFL part of the offseason where now things get way looked into training camp, way too much. But nothing ever confirmed that he was out for the season.
But I believe there were some media people saying that they feared that it was this, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That I have a problem with. It's one thing to say, boy, that injury looked bad. He twisted up, it looked bad. But, this is why we don't do this.
Mm-hmm.
You guys remember when I got word, I told you guys, I got word that Gerby was injured in spring. Remember that? Before it was public, I told you guys, hey, I found this out. But we didn't report it because I couldn't get Notre Dame to confirm what the injury was. We were told it was a knee. Remember? And it ended up being something different. Imagine if I would have run with that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I say. You got to treat injuries differently. It's not like, hey, I verified that this guy interviewed for a job. Injuries should be treated differently. And you can say, hey, look, boy, he got rolled up on. Keep it vague, right? I mean, boy, didn't look good. He had to get carted off. Stick to what you know. Don't then start saying, hey, I think he tore this, or this. Perfect example. In the Purdue game, Billy Schrauth's injury looked way worse than Ashton Craig's injury. Way worse.
Yep.
Billy Schrauth was back in a month. Ashton Craig was out for the year and the spring. You don't know. You're not a doctor. And so until you get good sourcing on this, don't put it out there. And this is why Notre Dame asks us not to report this stuff until they give us the okay, because you don't know what's going on.
And most people listen.
Most people do, not all, but most people do. For example, the thing on Charles Jagasaw, Matt Freeman from Irish Sports Daily and myself both reached out to Notre Dame before that really became public, and they gave us a heads up that, hey guys, we're going to report this at this time. Here's a heads up on it. And would have allowed us to report it, but they literally gave us a 5-minute heads up because it happened really quickly because it was spreading so quickly on social media that they had to do something quickly. I don't think Notre Dame would have reported it that next day if it wasn't for the fact that it was out on social media because players from the team were texting their friends and it goes around. But there's been times where I know for a fact Matt and I both had something on another injury and we would hold it until for several days because Notre Dame had asked us to, because there's a lot of things. Hey, he's got to get looked at here. We've got to get this test. We don't know for sure that this is it. And so I think that's something different than, hey man, we're about to get hammered on this thing and we don't want you to report. That's not my job, is to protect you.
Right.
But when it comes to injuries, I do think there's a level of, you don't always have to be first.
And that's the problem with the mentality of a lot of,
not going to change as long as clicks are what drive revenue.
Yep. It's clickbait. It's got to be first. It is this race to be first.
Yeah.
Whether you have all the information or not, it's this race to be first.
There's not enough.
Right.
There's not enough consequences for being wrong.
Yeah. Agreed.
There should be more of that. There was a guy when I was at SI that got fired when we first got started at SI because he reported that Clay Helton was going to get fired. Remember that? And he was wrong. It was completely wrong. So they fired him. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, you were so wrong on that. It's not hey, I heard Gerby Lambert was injured and I thought it was a knee, but it was a shoulder. Okay, I got that wrong. There should be some embarrassment if I would have reported that. That's why I didn't.
Right.
But it's not something where you lose your job over. If I reported that Gerby Lambert was out for the year with an injury and he was fine, he's like, what are you talking about? He didn't get injured. That is dude, I got to question how you do your job.
Yeah.
You clearly didn't talk to more than one person, and that person gave you some bad information. This is also why, unless it's a direct source, I don't report things unless I get multiple attestation to it.
Yeah. Like a parent is a
Right.
direct source, you know.
Right.
They're not
But even then, they may not know the actual
Sure.
length of an injury. So
Yeah.
you talk to
Yeah.
Notre Dame and things like that.
Absolutely.
And there just should be a process when it comes to injuries.
Absolutely.
And I don't agree with some things that Notre Dame does. This is one that I 100% am on the same page with them. Maybe it's because I have a coaching and a player background. But, like, do you know why they don't want us to report stuff from practice? You know, they tell us don't report injuries or anything like that you see in practice. You know why they do that? Because they want to be the ones to inform the parents that their child got hurt at practice. I respect that.
Absolutely.
Totally agree with that.
It's not how I want to find out my kid got hurt.
Right. It's different than saying, okay, CJ threw 3 interceptions in practice today. That's analysis of what's going on.
Correct.
That's fine. I don't care if CJ Carr's mom or Kenny Minchie's mom, I'm the first one that she sees he threw 3 picks of practice. Like, that's not that big a deal. But when it's about an injury, something like that, that's a different animal. I respect that about that. I respect Notre Dame's stance on that. And we should all honor that because injuries should be treated differently. But people don't care about being right. There's very few ramifications for being wrong because you can say, well, hey, you know, I was told this is what source? Well, I can't review my sources. You had no source or you had no good source. And now you're just hiding behind that. There need to be more ramifications for people getting things very wrong. And if there were certain consequences for that, then people would be more willing, hey, let me make sure I get this right before I get this out. And then that would change dramatically. Mm-hmm. Dramatically.
Agree with that 100%. The other factor that goes into it is also, and Domer, I'm not accusing you of this. This is just what I've seen per the media culture. Don't just fall victim to believing the first thing that you read on Twitter either. Yeah, that's the other thing. There's a lot of habit now that if somebody sees an account tweet out something with breaking news that has the little blue check mark, then it's like, well, it has to be true.
It used to mean a little bit more, but now anyone can pay for a blue check mark. Right.
Yeah. And so that would be the other side of it. There's accounts now on social media that make a living and like have built up the foot traffic on their account by tweeting out parody things. Mm-hmm. And it's always making sure that we also as the consumer are checking the source of where we're getting stuff from. There's very few outlets that, and one of the reasons why I pushed back on the initial question was I didn't see the Ari Morove guy, or I didn't see Adam Schefter like tweet out and say feared to be. It was just, hey, Justin Fields got carted off the field today at practice. But there were other accounts that were lower, I guess you could call it, in like social status that were like, he could have torn his Achilles. What does this mean for the Jets season?
That's primarily who we're talking about.
Yep.
Because Adam Schefter doesn't get stories wrong very often. Do you know why? Because he goes through the process of properly vetting the information that he gets.
He sources his stuff out. Yeah.
Those aren't the people that we got to be worried about. It's the fact that now anyone can have some site or account, or, you know, people make up names on Twitter and name something Notre Dame related, and people just think this person's a source of Notre Dame football. Like, no, they're not. There's a YouTube page now that literally just takes things that other people produce, puts a really clickbaity headline on it, and people watch it. Because people are so starved for information, they see something and they believe it, especially if it confirms what they already think or believe. See this in politics all the time, and it's frustrating. But there needs to be more consequences for that, and to a degree there are. I mean, we saw a guy that was tweeting something out before the playoff game, and he was adamant that this is the case, and he was completely wrong and didn't know what he's talking about. He never knows what he's talking about, and he got embarrassed for it, and I think lost a lot of credibility. There needs to be more of that. Where when people, and I don't mean getting things wrong, it's like, hey, I predicted Notre Dame to win and they lost. That's not what we're talking about. When you report something that's somewhat important, and you fear, the other thing too with the NFL is, for all we know, that came from fans. Because then a lot of these things that there's fans there. So it's like, to your point, Trey, it could be some fan with a blue check mark that said, hey, I think it's this, and all of a sudden other people on Twitter run with it, including media people. That it's like, no, that's kind of bad, man. Like, you shouldn't have put that out. But I say, look, he got rolled up on pretty bad. It didn't look good. We'll see, because we've seen some injuries that like look terrible, and the guy's fine.
Yeah, and things that don't look bad at all, you're out for the season. Like,
yeah,
what?
Yeah. Like Jordan Patel's injury did not look what it was. Bubakar's didn't look that bad. Riley Mills, I still watch that.
Riley Mills was standing on the sideline, like cheering on, like full uniform.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, they're just going to hold him out the rest of the game.
There's no way he tore his ACL. Like, you go watch the plays. Like, it doesn't look like a play rotation. But then Ashton Craig, Billy Strauss looked really bad. Like, we were talking, like, privately, like, guys, that looked like a really bad injury. And if you'd have asked me during the Purdue game, I'd have said, look, I think Billy might be out a couple weeks. I mean, I think Ashton might be out a couple weeks. I think Billy's season's over. That's how they looked. But you can't always judge that. I know. Billy was back in a month, and Ashton still hasn't played since then. So it just needs to be more responsibility and accountability. That's what I say, man. People say that the turns doesn't work. Yeah, it kind of does. It kind of does.
It absolutely does.
You think if you had to put your name, and where you work on your Twitter page, that people would act the way that most people would act the way they do on social media? If you had to put your real name, your face, and where you work on your social media, do you think people would still act the way that they do? Most wouldn't.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Because there'd be some consequences. Like, okay, I know where you live. I know where you work. We'll say that about so-and-so. I'll see you. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, or my boss is reading this. Like, dude, you literally, like, wow, I didn't, you're an anti-Semite praising Hitler, which we're seeing on social media now. Like, it's the craziest thing. Young people praising like Nazis and stuff. I'm like, what is going on? But hide behind some fake name, and some of them are bots. Like, but some of them are like legitimately feeling that way. People be less like, because these type of people have always been around, but now it's accepted to spew whatever nonsense that comes out of your mouth on social media, because you can hide behind some fake name, some fake thing, and nobody knows who you are. Nobody knows who you are.
It's a platform. They have a platform now.
I'm not advocating that people should have to put their names out there. I'm just saying, like, the fact that there's no accountability for things that people say and do is a problem. It's like, say whatever you want. Like, you have the right to say things, but you don't have the right. But there still has to be consequences for things you say.
Oh, yeah. I come from a sales background. You meet and work with a bunch of different types of people out there. And I can tell you firsthand that people's LinkedIn pages looked a lot different than their Twitter pages. That's for sure. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Speaking of people that say dumb things.
Sean Stewart, James Franklin still can't stop thinking about Notre Dame. Thoughts?
The fact that he's still regurgitating the same stuff over and over again. The only thing he said right is when people said that they people think this is about the playoff game. It's not. I've been saying this for years. He has been saying this for years. So what you've just admitted, James, is you've always been an idiot. It's not new. You're not having, Notre Dame derangement syndrome from the playoff loss. You've always been this dumb and shallow thinking. So it is hilarious how much, like, dude, you need to worry about yourself. Go beat a top 5 team. Then you can talk about what other people need to do. Like, I don't think that's an unfair ask. Do you guys?
Nope.
Like the one year you won the Big Ten, which is now almost a decade ago, you lost by 35 to Jim Harbaugh that regular season, and you lost to Pitt. Like, how about you worry about you? Like, you try beat Michigan when they're good, beat Ohio State when they're good, or beat Notre Dame when they're good. Then you can maybe run off at the mouth about what Notre Dame should do.
Yeah.
Stop, dude.
Worry about winning your conference before you worry about who else is in your conference.
And you may not want Notre Dame in your conference, because that means you're just going to be one rung lower on the ladder than you are now. So it might not work out for you, because, Notre Dame's already proven to go into your backyard and take all your best players. Do you really want them in your league too? Like it's kind of like picking a fight with Mike Tyson. Like, do you really want to? You sure you want to think this through?
That's the path you want to go down. Okay.
You're really sure that you want to get into Vander Holyfield's face and talk about his mama?
Listen.
I don't know that that's something that you should want to do.
James Franklin made a calculated decision to say the things that he said in that press conference prior to the Orange Bowl.
Yep.
And he's doubling down on it.
Well,
and it's like how
the Notre Dame needs to be in a conference thing is something he said for a while.
For sure.
Like, that wasn't the first time he said it, wasn't at that press
But the manner in which he said it.
He tried to big brother and bully Marcus Freeman, and he didn't realize he was
correct.
It's like, look, Marcus Freeman, I've said this before, Vince, you and I have both met a lot of people in town who've bumped into Marcus Freeman in a non-football setting, or bumped into Marcus Freeman's wife in a non-official setting, and they always have the same story. wow, really nice guy, really nice lady. Like I get that constantly from people. Don't let the fact that he's a polite person and a nice, respectful person away from football fool you into thinking he's just some pushover. Because this is still a former Big Ten middle linebacker back when it meant something to be a Big Ten middle linebacker. You had to be a different kind of cat to be an all Big Ten middle linebacker back then, because that's back when the Big Ten was playing big boy football. Okay? So my point is, don't get it twisted that Marcus Freeman's some punk that you can bully, because he ain't. He's a different kind of cat when you get him in that. And he tried to punk Marcus Freeman in that press conference, and you could see Marcus Freeman's face the entire time, like, is this guy? You can see it the whole time.
Oh, yeah.
And then when we heard some of the stuff from the players, like how he was reacting coming out of that, you're like, this is not going to be good. So, yeah.
And he hasn't forgotten. Would be my guess, just based on the recruiting trail and just how everything's going
Marcus
down.
Freeman
here.
Doesn't seem to forget. He still talks about Stanford and Marshall.
Right, exactly.
He never let that team last year forget about Northern Illinois. I mean, coach, we beat Georgia, Penn State. Can we let this go now? Nope. Nope. So that was not a smart move. And you look at how Kirby Smart interacted with Marcus Freeman the 2 weeks before. Completely different 180. Respectful.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the game. It's, hey, we respect Notre Dame. We respect this program. We got to worry about what we're doing. We got to worry about playing Georgia football. We got a heck of an opponent coming to town here. James Franklin trying to, big brother Marcus Freeman. It's like, hey, man, sometimes big brother's better than you. So, like, I'm grown now. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not 8 anymore, and you're 14. I'm now 30, and you're 36. You know what I'm saying? So we ain't going to play this game anymore. And that was a mistake.
An understatement. Yeah.
That was a mistake. It was a bad idea.
Yes, it was.
Very bad idea.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get a couple more fellas before we get out of here.
All right.
This is an interesting one.
From Eric Kaneski, who would you rather beat in the national championship game? Ohio State, LSU, or Michigan? If you have another, who would it be and why?
For me, it's Ohio State.
That's a monkey on their back right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's the one program you haven't been able to beat that you've played. It's the defending champs, and you want to beat them on the biggest stage. Because if you beat them, like, let's say, first round in Ohio State's like 9-3, and they're coming to South Bend, it's like, yeah, you didn't beat that good of Notre Dame. You didn't beat that good.
I'm not giving it away, though. Like, that would still be a big win.
I mean, I still enjoy that, but, like,
yeah.
I would, for the other two, I don't want them to get that far.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm going to beat them, I want to beat them in the first couple rounds. I don't want them to get all the way to the championship game.
Agreed.
Yep,
agreed.
That's where I'm at.
I would love for those to be the first 2 rounds, right, Trevor? I mean, it just leaving a trail of tears on the way to beating Ohio State in the national championship.
I'd want to beat Ohio State, Texas, or Bama in the title game if I could have my way. One of those 3 teams. Ohio State, Alabama, and Texas in that order.
Mm-hmm. If we're talking about this year specifically, I love the idea of Notre Dame winning a national championship, no matter who they have to beat.
Correct.
With that being said, I don't love the idea of Notre Dame playing Ohio State again in the national championship this year, because a lot of the narrative will be, yeah, Notre Dame did it, but Ohio State doesn't have 13 of the starters that they had from the previous team. Now, I am not going to care. I know that's going to be the narrative, but, like, let's say it's in 2026. When Julian Sainz going into a second year starting and Jeremiah Smith is a junior, and all their young starters on defense are a year more, they're a year older and they're in year 2 of the Matt Patricia offense. There's just going to be, like, less, you know what I mean? Like, less of a reason, less of an excuse. Yeah. But in general, my answer would still be Ohio State, because I think it means more.
Yeah.
Big picture to Notre Dame's program. Like LSU, yes, they were a powerhouse back in, like, the early 2000s, early kind of, like, I guess not even 20 teens, like 2010, 2011-ish.
They played for the title in 2011, but then by 14, when Notre Dame beat them in the Music City Bowl, they were a 4-loss team.
Yep. And then had the 2019 season, but then since then it's been very and so I don't think big picture for Notre Dame's brand it would mean that much.
The only reason beating LSU would be a big story is Brian Kelly.
Oh yeah.
And I don't want him to get to the title game.
No, I want that to be in round 1.
Nope. I want that round 1 at Notre Dame, and I want.
I'd rather than play LSU.
What's that?
You said what?
I'd rather Notre Dame never play LSU.
That's fine too.
Because that means he never gets to the playoffs.
Yeah.
That's true.
I'm okay with that.
That's true. I wouldn't mind Brian Kelly getting to the playoff and losing in the first round because that's just consistent with what he's done very randomly every 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Michigan, I mean, again,
but what
same
would be so great is Brian Kelly makes it to the playoffs, and let's say it's this year. They go like 11-1 somehow with that schedule, make it to the playoffs. Notre Dame doesn't get a bye. They host LSU or something, and then Brian Kelly has to use the same excuses that he used at Notre Dame why they couldn't play and beat and win in the big game. But he has to use those excuses because he lost to Notre Dame.
Right.
It's like we just didn't have the horses.
Well, and if I had NIL when I was at Notre Dame, he's the king excuse maker.
Oh, that'd be great.
The king excuse maker.
I'd love it.
Yeah, if I could choose to beat LSU or Michigan in the playoff, I would still choose LSU because I want Michigan to be bad every year they play.
And if Notre Dame beats LSU in the playoff, I'm going to the visiting head coach's press conference.
Oh, I said that in the show the other day.
Oh, did you really?
I will be in the front row at the press conference.
I wouldn't want the first question.
I got one. This guy. Yeah.
I can't wait.
So, Coach, why is your chef not up to par at LSU?
So many different ways to go about that press conference, man.
That'd be so much fun.
Oh, I would love that so much. Ant VR. Odds that Notre Dame is ranked number 1 after the Texas A&M game. So that's after 2 games.
I'd say probably still thin because I think the winner of the Ohio State-Texas game, barring them being upset by, and neither plays like a really good team the next couple weeks, will probably be ranked ahead. Penn State plays like Holy Cross, the Sisters of the Poor.
Their first 3 games
it's ridiculous.
They're not going to lose.
I don't see them losing, and I don't think A&M is going to be ranked high enough where that's a win that vaults Notre Dame up to number 1. I think Miami win will be good. The A&M will be good, but I don't know if it's enough to vault them over the winner of the Ohio State-Texas game, who I expect them both to be ranked ahead of Notre Dame in the preseason rankings. So that's probably still a little too. And I'm sorry, I just realized the avatar he has. Do you see that? It's that scene where Michael, Dwight, and Jim are dressed up as utility guys in the office. That's so great. I never noticed that before, Ant. But I think it would take a couple upsets for them to be ranked number 1 that soon, even with 2 huge wins. I still think they'll say, well, yeah, but beating Ohio State on the road is still bigger for Texas, or beating Texas at home is still bigger than those, 2 teams that weren't even ranked in the top. Because I don't think Miami or A&M will be ranked in the top 10 in the preseason rankings. I think they'll both be in the top 25. I don't think they'll be in the top 10.
No. And
Miami maybe, but I don't think they will.
I was about to say, in between the 2, I think Miami would be ranked higher.
Yeah, I think it's fair. That's fair. Real quick, Don Lloyd, we're going to do a show on this once the 26 class is complete. So once Elijah Gold makes his decision, we'll do an RTCF show that breaks down what those are. So that's why I'm not going to get to that one. But here's a couple others.
Michael Johnson, since Coach Marcus Freeman has been at Notre Dame, is this the best quarterback recruiting or overall recruiting by a coach in this time frame?
I would say probably, because I just think the overall higher level of this group is better than the higher level of the group from before. But we've seen a stretch like this, similar to this before. From 2011 to 2015, Notre Dame landed Everett Golson, Gunnar Kiel, Malik Zaire, Deshawn Kaiser, and Brandon Wimbush.
Yeah.
And Brandon was a top 100 player. Everett was really talented. Malik was a top 150 player. Deshawn was a 4-star. Gunnar was actually the highest ranked. He was a 5-star. I would argue that this group is better, and I think this group better fits the offense they want to have than that group did.
Yeah.
But it's close. Based on high school rankings, it's close. It's close. I think CJ's better than Gunnar. I think Teddy Gerard is ahead of where Brandon Wimbush was as a sophomore in high school. I think Kenny was a little bit further along than Deshawn. He didn't have Deshawn's physical tools, but he was a more advanced player mentally in some other areas. I think Everett's the one that they don't really have a counter for that, but I think overall I'd say this group's probably a touch better. But if you wanted to tell me you thought that 11 to 15 group was better, okay, that's fine. they're both excellent. The question was more about, can they develop it better than that group, than that coaching staff did? That's the big question. Real quick from Irish in Florida. First off, you guys are the best. Thank you for that. Thanks for all the stuff you guys bring us as fans. You are more than welcome. Are there any commits at risk of flipping somewhere else? If so, who? Not right now, no. I mean, could they lose a guy? It's possible, guys. In this day and age, I don't ever just assume everybody. But like right now, this group's pretty locked in. It's pretty locked in. As of right now, I'd say if anybody flipped, it would be someone they dropped from the class. And I don't know of anyone that they would want to drop from the class as of right now. Could that change 6 months from now? Sure. It's the world we live in. Somebody could come in with this giant offer that the kid's like, dude, I can't turn that down. I don't know of who that would be right now. I think this class is pretty locked in. And most of these kids have made recent decisions. So they're not going to flip that early. But right now, I'm not worried about that.
From Tristan, who are you most excited to see, quote, take that jump, unquote, this season? Trev, why don't you kick us off on this one?
I have a couple. I mean, on offense, I mean, Cam Williams making the jump from not doing a whole lot to, I mean, when I mean not a whole lot, I mean he played one snap in 2024.
From doing nothing.
That's not a whole lot.
Yeah.
No.
To
Fair.
being an impactful deep threat in the offense. And then another one that's taking the jump is Jaden Greathouse. We talk a lot and put a lot of weight into what he did against Penn State and Ohio State, rightfully so. But I want to see him take that jump to being that elite week in and week out wide receiver that he has the capabilities of doing. I'm excited to watch him make that jump. And then defensively, we talk a lot about Boubacar and Bryce Young and guys like that. I want that to now come to fruition.
Yeah.
And I can't wait for the show where and all the stats are valid. And I love bringing them up and I love talking about them. But instead of bringing up, he had, 4 hits plus sacks on the quarterback and 28 pass rushing snaps. And if you project that over this, like, I just can't wait for the day. It's like, I mean, what more do you want to see from this kid? He had 23 hits plus sacks on the quarterback this season.
Yeah.
I can't wait for that day.
Yeah. We could go with some of the guys we talked about earlier, and Anthony Knapp, CJ Carr. Those are obvious ones. I love the Cam Williams one. I think that's a great one because he brings an element that they just don't have really a lot of on the offense. Defensively, I love one of Boubacar or Bryce Young. You really need to take a jump. You need one of them to take a jump. But there's a lot of guys. I mean, one of the D tackles, Jason Onye, Jared, Dawson, Armel Mookum.
Whoever starts across from Adon Schuler.
Yeah.
Right. There's
Armel Mookum's an interesting one for me too. If he could have that kind of breakout season, that would be a big one for them as well. There's a lot of candidates of guys I'd like to see. And the more of them that actually do it, the better this team. I mean, that's ultimately what's going to decide this team, just like last year.
Yeah.
If Riley Leonard does everything he did and Riley Mills does what he did and Xavier does what he did, but Drake Bowen doesn't make that big year 2 jump. Jeremiah Love doesn't make that big year 2 jump. Jaden Greathouse doesn't make a year 2 jump. If you kind of go down the list of those young guys that really stepped up or the rotation guys that really stepped into an important role, then this season doesn't end where it did. You needed both. And you're going to have your stars, but it's those other guys that are taking those jumps that plays a big role as well. Like, I don't care that if Cam Williams only earns 15 catches this year, he forces his way into the field to get 15 catches this year. He's probably going to look like that Mario Craver statistic we put up the other day. It's going to be like 15 for like 290 or 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. And he gives you an element that you got it when he's on the field. You better worry about that. And all of a sudden you start overplaying that. So I run him on a post route. You take your safety corner roll with him. I bring that deep over from my boundary guy coming right underneath it and hitting it for 6. Like it's yes, that would be huge. That would be huge. Here's a similar one. This is a similar one to that, but I think different enough to answer.
From Archer says, which Notre Dame player will surprise people this year with how much and how well they play?
Keedron Young.
That's a good one. That's a really good one. I wanted to say him kind of for the last one, but we kind of had, no, you're good. It's all good. But I agree with you. I think this is one that is going to surprise some people because obviously Jeremiah Love is getting a lot of publicity. Obviously Jadarian Price is getting a lot of publicity. Obviously Aeneas Williams is getting a lot of publicity because of what he was able to do, late in the season and throughout the whole season. But Kedron Young is he's like that dog on the leash in the backyard that just keeps like tugging at the chain. You know what I mean? And you just kind of want to let him go and see what happens. Like I want to see Kedron Young get after.
Great pick for offense. I got one for defense. You ready? Cole Mullins.
Bang.
Yeah. Cole Mullins. That's mine on defense.
Love that.
Yep. Remington Jeans. Brian, what are your expectations for Bo Nix and the Broncos this year? Honestly, buddy, I don't have any. I didn't watch a single NFL game. Did I watch the Super Bowl? I don't think I watched some of the Super Bowl. Like, I just didn't watch much of the NFL last year. I didn't watch either. I think I might have watched the Chiefs-Bills game in the playoffs. And I watched part of the Super Bowl. That's about it. I saw a little – I just didn't follow the NFL.
Well, with the way that Notre Dame season went last year, it went so long, like, into the NFL playoffs. Yeah. Like, it was a weird season for
the Broncos. I think were out before Notre Dame season was over or something like that. I mean, they lost the first round, right? Didn't they lose in the wild card to the Bills last year?
Sure.
If I remember correctly. It's like sounds
great.
Like it might have happened.
Yes, sure.
Sounds like something that could have maybe happened last year. I thought they did, or was that 2 years ago? I thought they lost them.
No, they lost. They lost 31-7.
Yeah, that old impressive 10-7 record in the regular season. So
they're a team to look out for, though.
I don't have any.
They're a team to look out for.
I don't have any.
I like Bo Nix. I
don't even really necessarily count myself as a Broncos fan anymore. I told you I decommitted from the Broncos last year. But, they've done a couple things to maybe get me thinking to come back. We'll see. I still think those uniforms are the final straw. Those are trash. Absolute trash.
From Tommy, who's your favorite Notre Dame transfer in, whose former team beat Notre Dame the following 1 to 3 years? That is a very narrow list.
Who is on that list?
I don't even know.
Favorite Notre Dame transfer in whose former team beat Notre Dame in the following years?
Is there anybody that even qualifies for that list, Tommy? Help us out here.
Yeah, who would be our options there? Cody Riggs. Alohi Gilman did
to the Ohio State kid,
Javonte Jean-Baptiste. Yeah. I mean, I think he might be the only one on that list.
It's the only one I can think of.
Yeah.
Thomas Harper transferred in after Oklahoma State.
Here's one. Here's one, Vince. You're going to love this one.
Am I?
Yeah, you're going to love this one. Who was Notre Dame starting right guard in 2021?
Wow.
And who did they lose to the first home game of 2022?
Gosh, it never goes away. It never goes away.
You can't escape them. I think this was a troll question from Tommy to take a shot at Vince. That's what I think it was. That's what I think it was. This is him taking a shot at Vince. That is so great.
Oh, man. How did I not think of that one? I don't know.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. That's so great. Oh, well played there. Well played.
That is well played. That's the one question we
can't end
had
on that one. I was going to end on one, but we can't end on that one.
That's funny.
So, that's I think here's a couple. Well, and these last two from John A1, and then we'll get out of here.
All right. He says, right now, Jordan Faison seems to be the best yards after catch creator in the wide receiver room. Does Notre Dame have another talent in that room who can do similar things?
Trev, you look like you got something to say on that.
Yeah,
one.
You do.
Because I think we might be saying the same thing. I want to see if you're going to.
I would even push back. I don't think it's Jordan Faison. I would make the argument it's Jaden Greathouse. I mean, and I'm not even just talking about what he did against Penn State and Ohio State. That's a factor in, but I mean, go back and watch the Florida State game. I mean, that dude was creating plays off of now screens, in some plays that looked broken, So, I mean, I get why you said Jordan Faison. He's that kind of stereotypical, like little,
and he's good at that.
Yeah,
he's good at that.
No, he's very good at that.
Our pushback is not, because I agree with you, Trev. Our pushback is not that Jordan Faison's not what you think he is. Our pushback is that we think Jaden Greathouse is better at that than you think he is.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's other guys in the room that can do that. I think Elijah Burris can make people miss with the ball. I think KK Smith can make people miss with the ball. I think Will Pauling is going to be a guy similar to that, can make people miss with the ball. I won't be shocked if Will Pauling is their starting punt returner this year. Won't shock me at all. So I certainly think that is something that we could see. Certainly. And then this is kind of a fun one to end on. I want to get the real quick. JP Buellsfeld, if Deuce Knight has transferred from Notre Dame to Oregon today, what do you think of Notre Dame's quarterback room would look like today? I think he's referring to if Deuce would have come to Notre Dame and then transferred.
I think so.
I think there'd be a problem, JP. I think they'd have a depth problem because he'd be basically taking Blake Hebert's spot, and then they'd only have 2 scholarship quarterbacks. So I think that quarterback situation ended well for Notre Dame because I don't know that Deuce was ever going to stay out, and he was not going to beat out CJ, and he wasn't going to stay and sit behind CJ, although he should have. I think that'd have been great for Deuce to develop for a couple years, but he wasn't going to, and his family wasn't going to let him. So I think that would have left Notre Dame in a really bad spot. It's
so interesting the way that recruitment started, because it started with, hey, man, you're kind of a project. We're going to bring you in. We think the ceiling's very high, that kind of a deal. That's how the recruitment started. And then when he kind of blew up a little bit, that whole thing was out the window. And it was, where can I go and play right now? All of those different things. And it was just that recruitment changed so much from start to finish because nobody was on Deuce when Notre Dame started on Deuce.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Not any of the big boys,
like,
not the Bamas, and
exactly. It was such a weird recruitment from that standpoint. What they were selling, what Notre Dame was selling, that Deuce was buying, just completely went out the window.
Right. I still say at the end of the day, if this was 100% about Deuce, I think he would have stayed. He would have come to Notre Dame. If this was just about the family saying, Deuce, we're going to let you do what you want to do.
Sure.
Yeah. And then this last one, I thought this is a petty one to end on. Sean Davis would be proud of this one, in my opinion.
From John A1, which program do you hope has the most disappointing season in 2025? My top pick is USC, with Penn State being a close second.
I've never wanted USC to be bad. I still say that I like it when I like beating them better when they're good.
Sure.
It just means more. But yes, Penn State would be in there. That would be one for me. Indiana has now become a school that I would like to just see get blasted a lot this year. Like that would be good. But I don't know that Michigan. I mean, how bad would Michigan have to be for a season to be disappointing?
500.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know that they're going to be that bad.
I don't think they will either, but I would enjoy it.
Agree. I mean, I don't really root against a lot of teams. Penn State has caused me to do so.
Yes. Penn State and Michigan now, Penn State has creeped into that echelon for me. Michigan
Miami
will always be number one.
Another one. Their fans are so annoying.
They are.
So annoying.
But because they're on Notre Dame's schedule, I want them to be good.
But see, that's fine. I'd rather USC be good and other teams be good. I'd be totally fine with Miami sucking, because here's the good thing about Miami sucking. Then their fans just stop paying attention, not have to deal with them anymore.
That's fair.
They move on to the Dolphins and the Heat, and I don't have to worry about it anymore because they're bandwagon fans.
Agree with the teams that you guys said. I think the frustrating thing about Penn State is because of the makeup of their roster. I don't think they're going to be bad. I just want them to be bad, and I think that's really frustrating.
Like a nice little 8-4, 9-3 season.
Yes.
Yeah.
But one that, and it's maybe because of how much attention they're getting this preseason, and people are making it out to sound like this is the second coming of 2019 LSU mixed with 01 Miami. I kind of hope Texas has a disappointing season.
I knew it.
I do, man, because you go through and you read all these preseasons.
But I kind of like Sark, and I like some of the players in their team. It's just it's more about the media. It's why people dislike Tim Tebow is more because of the media hype on him, more so than necessarily Tim Tebow. Some people just didn't like him for other reasons. But yeah, Trev, so you're saying you don't dislike Sark, you don't dislike Arch. It's the hype, the incessant.
They're crowned, man.
Oh my gosh.
People have crowned Texas
to the point where I've read some articles that it's borderline. I mean, do we give them the trophy? Come on, man. Who has
just cancel the season.
Literally, people rank them as having the best D-line, the best linebacking core, the best secondary, the best quarterback room, the second best running back room, the second best wide receiver room. It's I mean, look, because of that, I hope that they go 10-2 and maybe make the playoffs or get bounced in the first round. It's like, but it's not because I dislike Arch. I really
get
like
that.
Arch.
No, I totally, dude. I
Yeah.
totally get it. The consensus in the chat though is John Kristovic says it's Michigan. Vince, I'm a unifier. I like to bring people together. So you and Arch, Ohio State fan, Notre Dame fan, bringing you guys together. He goes Michigan. The answer is always Michigan. He said BD, Michigan podcast has Michigan going 10-2 and playing for the Big Ten title, hosting a CFP playoff game. So, okay, if that's their expectation of their fans, then let's let them have a 20 season because you're out of your minds.
Yeah, I bet. And the Trev podcast later this evening, he's going to talk about how I'm going to be ripped the rest of the year and get super jacked and win $1 million.
Yes.
I was like, you
can talk about anything when you got a microphone and the internet. So it's all
right.
Oh, good. I'm gonna throw one. I'm gonna throw one in there. Fair State. I don't want them to win another the national championship.
There you go. Okay, because is that
okay? What up, Hillsdale? Come on now.
Tommy Gunn says, "I hope Michigan is winning at halftime by a decent amount every game and manage to watch the wheels fall off every second half."
Great.
I hope their quarterback play is somehow worse.
The pettiness coming from you guys is phenomenal. Oh, that'd be rough. Is that even possible?
No, it's not possible.
I don't know that that's possible, Trev.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know that they might have to quit football at that point in time.
Yeah.
Like that would be bad. Well, that's a great way to end the show, guys. Michigan stinks. That's a great way to end the show. I love it. I love it. Why don't you go ahead and take it? Except Antoine, we still love you if you're watching, but sorry, man.
Yeah,
it is what it is.
It is what it is.
But
man.
That's it. The great show today, fellas. Vince, why don't you take us out of here, man?
Hey, appreciate everybody hanging out with us for another Friday Free-For-All Mailbag. It's always a great day, and when you can end it when you're bashing Michigan, it makes it even better. And
you got some Cade Madden references in for Vince.
That was hurtful. That was like bringing up an X or something. That was awful. But make sure you hit that like button, that subscribe button, that notification bell, share with your family and friends, and of course, jump on the boards at boards.irishbreakdown.com. There is intel galore over there, and there is more coming. So if you want the intel going into camp, if you want the offensive intel, if you want the defensive intel, there's already quarterbacks, wide receivers, and tight ends. And then later on today, I believe there will be offensive line and running backs. And then further on down the line, there's going to be some defense. And so, folks, 6 days from now, 6 days, camp opens. We're going to have a lot to talk about. And so you're going to want to jump on the boards. They're the premium message boards to get your fix. Get your last off-season fix in before things start. And they do start in earnest in 6 days. So you want to stay locked into Irish Breakdown because this is where you come. This is where you come to get all your stuff. And there's great conversations going on over on the premium message board. So for Trevor and Brian, I'm Vince. We will talk to you next time on the Irish Breakdown podcast. Have a great weekend, everybody.